Brought to you by Sumner One.
And welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it's 7 o'clock. Time check.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
I guess I could light the candles.
Happy birthday, dear Randy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everybody. An accompaniment from Courtney, from The Courtney Show, who came in the door to sing.
She did.
She did.
She was in the hallway. And
fabulous.
Here you go.
Brooke, Dan, Randy, time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. If I didn't say, it is 7:01 now. Aw, thanks, guys. My birthday was yesterday, and I was off. Thank you, Brooke.
You're welcome.
Oh, here comes a hug.
Oh.
Isn't that so
My
sweet?
kids.
Happy birthday, Randy.
Thank you.
There you go.
And I get a little happy birthday balloon.
There's a lot of balloons in the room.
Thanks,
today.
everybody. Yeah, we got balloons from St. Louis Balloons, at St. Louis Balloons on Facebook and Instagram. And you need today to be online on the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. And behind Brooke, a beautiful delivery yesterday from a loyal listener and a faithful listener. And just to describe, it's got a balloon figure of me next to an arch, ESPN logo on top. You got a little Folds of Honor logo there. You've got a bicycle. You've got golf clubs. You've got a little cacti, because I like to go to the Valley of the Sun, play golf and do spring training and all of that stuff out there. That's fun. It's just really cool, and it's right behind Brooke. Thanks, everybody. So I got to tell you something. This is an amazing day, because normally I get here a little bit early, and today I was stuck at home because the Connections game on the New York Times app was just so ridiculously stupid. So I'm running a little bit late. Okay, so, and keep in mind, I see Matthew usually when I walk in, and then I'm here sitting, and Brooke and Dan walk in. Well, today I make my morning trek over to Mobile on the Run, walk in the door. Who's there but Danny Mac saying, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm picking this up." Dan said, "Well, I was going to surprise you." Dan's got a box of donuts in his hand.
I was shocked that you were there.
I was shocked that you were there.
I didn't want to see you. No offense.
I get to the station. I hop in the elevator. Usually I hop in the elevator on the lower floor, go up to number 2, express, no problem at all. Get to number 1. Who's standing there but Brooke Grimsley with a cookie cake and a balloon? You guys are unbelievable, so thank you.
Yeah, when the elevator opened, I was just like, oh.
Awkward.
I was like, you don't see anything. This is a mirage right now. This is not actually
Thank you,
happening. The
guys.
timing of it, because usually you are already in here in the studio by 5:30. I mean, excuse me, 6:30.
6:30, yeah, a little before
6:30.
No, he's here at 5:30.
He's here at 5:30.
Prepping.
He's here at 6:30.
Prep,
And so
yeah.
I thought that I was completely fine. And then as soon as the elevator door opened and there he was,
The look
Dan,
on
I
your
was
face was-
completely shocked.
I walked in. I almost dropped my box of donuts. Hey, what are you doing here?
Oh, it's
I said,
unbelievable.
this is supposed to be a surprise. I think we know what you like, Randy. You like a little cookie. You like donuts. You like
donuts?
sugar.
I do.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Balloons.
So
Happy
thank
birthday,
you guys.
brother.
You guys are the best, and I appreciate it very much. Yesterday was Woody Williams' birthday and my birthday, and Woody has his bobblehead tonight at the ballpark. Cardinals take on the Brewers in the first game of a 3-game series. Cardinals are going to start the run back to division supremacy tonight, I guess. Okay. It's my birthday. It's not anything else more weird than that.
Isn't it odd looking at the Brewers lineup minus Yelich? You had Devin Williams only partially here. It's amazing what they've been able to do. Runs scored, they're better than the Cardinals. Runs allowed, they're better than the Cardinals. Batting average, better than the Cardinals. Batting average against, better than the Cardinals. Home runs, they've hit 3 more. Home runs allowed. That's the only thing that they are not as better, or as when you look at it, that's the only statistical category that they don't lead the Cardinals. this is why you're 11 games out. I mean, the Brewers are who they are. The numbers bear it out. And it's a great job by Pat Murphy, who should be, in my mind, the manager of the year. As they come to town, what he's done with his team, 11-game lead. The Cardinals, by the way, in the wild card are 5 out. So it's going to be really tough for them to get into postseason play. And I know that's stating the obvious, but it's going to be tough starting tonight.
20 games over 500, and they are also fresh off a 3-game sweep against the Cleveland Guardians. So they are continuing to play really well. And to the point of what you're saying, Dan, about all the pieces that they've had missing this year is the amount of injuries that they have dealt with and been able to overcome, and the loss of Corbin Burns to this roster. Yeah. I thought that would be huge for them, and they have found a way to be resilient outside of that. And you lost Craig Counsell. There was a lot of that going into the season about what this team would look like, but they falter without having him there. And the Brewers, it seems like now, for a long time there, the Cardinals were the gold standard within the division. Now it seems like the Brewers have taken that over.
I agree with that 100%. And from the Cardinals' end of things, they've had their injuries. They were supposed to start the season with Nootbaar in left and Tommy Edman in center and Jordan Walker in right, and they've never really had that. And Bernie has a great piece up at the Scoops Network. Just go to scoopswithdannymac.com. That still goes right to scoopsnetwork.com. Got a great piece up about Jordan Walker from a numbers perspective. And guys, I was at the game on Saturday night, and the Cardinals won the game, and it was they played well, and it was fun, and they beat the Dodgers. But as a fan, I'm wondering, okay, why am I not seeing Jordan Walker? The team's not going anywhere. Let's be realistic. And I think the Cardinals, it's hard for them to be realistic because of what happened in 2011. I to an extent, I understand that, but they haven't been close to that since 2011. Oh, by the way, 2011, you had Albert Pujols and Chris Carpenter on your team. So it's a little bit different than 2011. But that being said, this is a franchise that should be geared toward 2025 right now, and that includes getting Jordan Walker up on the beam. You let him work through any adversity that he might have, but it should be, you shouldn't have turned, and you shouldn't turn Lars Nootbaar and Alec Burleson into platoon players. Dan, you and I have talked about this on and off the air. Nolan Gorman should not be here right now. He should be trying to get better, like they were ostensibly trying to get Walker better at the minor league level. But for me, if I were the Cardinals, I would be playing all of the young kids. I'd be playing. I want to find out what Lars Nootbaar is, and
I still don't know.
I don't either. And I want Walker to continue to ascend. I want Victor Scott in center field. Arenado's going to be here, but I want Wynn. I want Donovan at second base. That is what the Cardinals need to do, and that might include, at times, having Contreras as your DH, or most of the time maybe, and Pages behind the plate. But I thought I was cheated as a fan the other night to have Jordan Walker sitting on the bench.
Well, you already posed this question earlier in the season of, is the torch being passed from those veteran players to the younger players? And if you're talking about in terms of playing and what they've been able to contribute this year, then 100%. But you're saying now we need to go ahead and just usher in this youth movement with the Cardinals.
And Brooke, I am as emotionally tied to players as I think any fan. I love players. And one of my big things about Cardinal fans and St. Louis fans in general is that we love our guys. We do. Everybody that comes back. Who was it that somebody got a shocking... Oh, Dylan Carlson gets a shocking standing ovation, right? Everybody gets a standing ovation when they come back. And I love our guys. I don't know how you bring Paul Goldschmidt back to this team. I just don't. You have to, from their standpoint, at some point you have to take the emotion out of it. He's not going to get better at the age of 37. He is what he is. He's hitting like 120 over his last 15 games. It's just not happening this year for Paul Goldschmidt. And you have to be realistic and say, okay, what's going to happen at 37 that's going to make him better than he was at 36?
You know, the interesting thing about going back to Walker just for a moment, and I look at this a lot of different ways. Number one, I want to see him play every day. That's just my personal, like you said, Randy, as a fan of baseball, I want to see him play every day. Good, bad, and different. I got to remember he's only 22. And so from an organizational standpoint, do you want to see him play every day? Maybe struggle against right-handed pitching, maybe struggles against left-handed. I don't really care, but the experience that he would get at the major league level, especially with a guy that, let's face it, you're counting on to be a part of your everyday lineup next year. At least I would imagine that's the case, because once you get to 23, 24, 25, time to take the training wheels off and see what you got. But being only 22, maybe the organization is saying we need to put him in what we feel are the best options for him to have success, because we can't let him get buried in the final, under 40 games now left in the regular season, or 40 or whatever it is. I just think there's a fine line with that, but I do want to see him play every day. I really do.
I want to see him play every day. I think at this point that's the whole purpose of why you brought him up. At least I thought. I know that they said that he was going to be a platoon bat right from the start of it, but I thought that if he came up here, he needed every day at bats, because he was just heating up down in the minors. And what's the point of bringing him up when he could continue to build up in the minors before bringing him back up possibly later on? And just playing a numbers game here too. You do have Steven Matz returning. You do have Lance Lynn returning. What happens when Matt Carpenter is ready to come off the IL? Will they send Walker back down, or is he staying up here the rest of the season? There's a lot of questions that I have about that.
That is a scary question. If you're a fan, that's a scary question. Do they take Jordan Walker, who, oh, by the way, and that's one of the reasons I brought up Bernie Miklas's piece at the website, is that Walker, minor or major leagues, he's better against right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching by a substantial amount.
The numbers bear it out.
The numbers do. So Brooke, you bring up an interesting point that I hadn't thought of, but would I be surprised if they would send Walker back when Carpenter's healthy? I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And maybe the guy that needs to go down is Nolan Gorman. Yeah. And yes. I truly believe that. If he's going to sit there on the bench and not play, and certainly not going to play against left-handers because he's just not hitting lefties, and trying to improve his swing at the major league level, which he needs to do, there's got to be contact. He's at the bottom or near the bottom of strikeout and barrel percentage, and looking at these things from about June on. I just, if you're Jordan Walker, you're saying, well, what's the difference here? Why am I going up and down? And when this guy has no success right now, why isn't he down? I don't know if he thinks that way. I do, because I look at him as being a non-factor right now with this team. Are you going to pinch hit him? Probably not. Are you going to play him every day? Probably not. So get him at bats down in the minor leagues and let him reset. Give him a reset down in the minors.
And when Jordan Walker was in the minors, by the way, the Cardinals talked about, and I agree with you 100% on Gorman. When Jordan Walker was in the minors, the Cardinals talked about, okay, he can be a centerpiece player for 10 years. I guarantee you right now that the activities of last year and this year will cause Jordan Walker to get out that door as quickly as he possibly can. Regardless of how he performs, once he reaches 6 years in the majors, the way he was treated these years in the majors and placed in the minors, and the way he's just sitting on the bench rotting away, he, I would think, will be really anxious to get out of St. Louis.
That's a long ways away, though.
It is.
That's a long ways away.
Look what happened to Chris Bryant. Granted, they won a world championship, but the years raced by, and the Cubs knew in his 6th year that he wasn't coming back.
Those things, they remember him. And I think another important point here is that we always talk about the players who have success once they leave the Cardinals. And you mentioned Dylan Carlson's name earlier. I'm sure you guys all saw his walk-off winner the other day that he had for the Rays. He looks like the version of himself that the Cardinals wish that he would have been. He's happier. You could tell that he's very happy in the position that he is in currently right now. And it's what the Cardinals actually need at this moment is an outfielder like that. I just don't want to see another young outfielder not pan out for the Cardinals.
Think about the body language. It didn't matter where in the ballpark. If you were down in the clubhouse, the body language of Dylan Carlson, especially though on the field, because we don't see him in the clubhouse, his body language is completely different in Tampa than
I noticed that game 1.
Yeah.
When he came back to St. Louis, I was like, man, he looked, remember we talked about it off the air. I said, Randy, he looks like a different guy. Brooke, he looks like a guy that's got his chest out, confident, different way that he goes about his business. I think the organization has to take a look at some point and say, why are these guys having success when they leave St. Louis? And it's a legitimate question. What are we doing to stunt the growth maybe of some of these players, and why is that happening in particular at the major league level? I think it's a legit question.
Coming up here on 101 ESPN, Eric Fedde has a start tonight against the Brewers. How important is his stretch run to the Cardinals' future? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN. Brooke, Dan, and Randy. Eric Fedde goes for the Cardinals tonight, and he has had some consistency as a member of the Cardinals. He's gone 5 innings, and then 6 innings, and he has allowed in his 3 games 5 earned runs, 1 earned run, and then 4 earned runs. So tonight, 5 innings and 1 earned run from Eric Fedde for the Cardinals.
I think that's realistic. I mean, that's kind of what you get with the staff. That's kind of what you get across Major League Baseball. Guys that give you 5 to 6 innings, starters, whether you like it or not, that's just the way it goes. And where he fits into the plans next season, he'll be smack dab in the middle of that rotation. It's interesting how the Cardinals could evaluate what happens next year. For the most, because to me, I'm going to include Palante in the rotation.
Okay, let's do that.
So
I agree.
You got Michaelis, you got Fedde, you've got Gray, and you've got Palante, and maybe you let somebody, fight it out in your system for number 5, or do you go out and get somebody? Maybe. But then the other thing is, because to me, the story of the season is runners in scoring position. They have not hit offensively like they thought, and you're going to have to address that with some kind of offense in the offseason. So maybe stay away from spending money on your rotation, and that money is allocated to what you can do with your everyday lineup.
Okay, let's start with this. Is Steven Matz, does he have the inside track to a rotation spot in the last year of his contract? The Cardinals are probably not going to
Didn't even mention him. Yeah, I forgot about him.
They won't eat $12.5 million, will they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
So and who's going to trade for him? Is a team that can afford $12.5 million easily going to trade for Steven Matz? He's made 33 starts in 3 years, 46 games in 3 years for the Cardinals.
There's always a team, though, Randy, with hope.
Yeah?
It just takes one, and they say, it's only $12.5 million, and we can insert him in our rotation.
And maybe the Cardinals pay him $8 million to go away. And so the team would have to pay $4 million. That happens a lot. Do they bring back, probably not Lynn, Gibson, possibility? I would think that possibility exists. I'm not saying that's what they should do. I'm saying that's what they probably will do. My guess is that they'll go into next year with Gray as their number 1 again, and Fedde as their number 2, and then Michaelis, Palante, and then maybe Michael McGreevy, because he made that good start up here. Maybe he comes back and makes another good start in September. Maybe it is Steven Matz. I'm like you. By the way, and I've been saying this since the day they signed Sonny Gray, that they need a legitimate number 1. I kind of think that the starting rotation for next year is already here.
I think it's already now, and that's it.
Yep, well, in the organization, at least.
Yeah, and it is a very expensive starting rotation. Now, Sonny Gray's pay does bump up next season, so you have to think about that. That's another reason why
25, right, Brooke? He goes from 10 to 25 million?
Yes, and then Eric Fedde, that is a great deal when you look at the fact that you're able to get him, I believe, for $7.5 million for next season. So you have that in your payroll. I agree with you guys. Andre Palante has been very impressive. He's not going to be your number 1 or 2. We're not saying that here, but he definitely deserves a spot in your starting rotation, even for the rest of this season and going into next year. By the way, you guys mentioned Steven Matz. He is likely to return here soon. That is the latest update on him. But the Cardinals are not committal, or at least they're not saying to media, if he will be returning as a starter or if he will be in the bullpen. What do you guys envision the starting rotation looking like for the rest of the season? Oh, and by the way, Lance Lynn is not far from returning as well.
Do you guys kind of think that they'll pitch, because they've ramped him up to be a starter, right? He's not pitching out of the bullpen. He's pitching as a starter and throwing pitches in his rehab. I think what they're going to do is pitch him in the rotation in September and say, he'll be fine.
And see what you got.
Yeah.
See what you got. I'm with you. I go back, though, to this point. If the rotation is set, then they've got to do something offensively. And it could mean that you make an uncomfortable move with one of your younger guys that you have believed in and probably still have some belief in. But there are other teams out there that will say, we'd love to have a guy that's got the potential of 30 home runs. We'd love the fact if we gave Lars Nootbaar 500 at-bats to see what he could do. I don't think Jordan Walker is going anywhere. Is a guy like Victor Scott on the table. These are things that are uncomfortable moves. I'd be uncomfortable making these moves. But still, you can't sit around and wait for this offense to come around, because it hasn't done that. It just hasn't. And so you're going to have to address that going into the offseason.
Right now, for your opening day of next year, who's your starting center fielder? Is it Ciani or Scott?
Ooh, I think Ciani.
I think so too.
I do too.
And that
but
would
Scott
allow
has
them,
been impressive.
if they want to make a move with a guy like Victor Scott, that's my point here.
Yeah.
They could do that. I don't think that they'll be able to make a move to I don't think they. I should say they won't be able to. I don't think they will make a move to enthrall the fan base. I think we're looking at the reduced seats sold. We're looking at the questions about TV money. And I don't think that there will be a dramatic. And I think the Cardinals said this. John Denton reported that in terms of trades, they aren't going to be allowed to increase payroll significantly. I don't think that this team's going to look a whole lot different. And to our point at the beginning, I think Eric Fedde comes back. Like Eric Fedde a lot. Is he a number 2? No. Our problem is that we don't have a number 1. Mm-hmm. Fedde's a number 3. If you get a number 1, Gray is a number 2, Fedde's a number 3, Palante's 4. Michaelis is the quintessential number 5 starter.
He should be a number 5.
Yeah.
And then see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Yep. But now you've got Gray as a 1, Fedde as a 2, Palante as a 3, Michaelis as a 4, and then a mishmash of a 5. You're just you're rolling the dice there. You need to get a substantial pitcher to win, and the Cardinals just don't have that guy.
Well, if you even look at the Twins with what was going on with Sonny Gray, obviously in his contract year when he was performing so well, who was the other pitcher that was a part of that 1-2 punch? It was Pablo Lopez.
Right.
Exactly.
And
so
who started
to your
game
point,
1 of the playoffs for him?
Pablo Lopez.
There you go.
And then it was Sonny Gray for game 2. So to your point, if they had another true ace, which I know is a very triggering word in this conversation, not just a ace or the number 1 in your starting rotation for the Cardinals, but a true ace outside the organization, that really changes the conversation. But back to your point about things not really changing much when you're looking at the position players for next year. Okay, so things don't change that much for the position players next year, but something philosophically has to change within the organization next year.
It does. And in my opinion, when you look at the way that these prospects have been couched, not just by the Cardinals, but by MLB Pipeline and by Baseball America, there has to be more production from people that are regarded very highly by the industry. Guys, right now, Dylan Carlson has an 842 OPS. He's hitting 267, 353 on base, and a 489 slug for the Tampa Bay Rays in 51 plate appearances, an OPS plus of 139. Brooke, you said this last night, and I didn't even realize this. Paul DeJong has more home runs than any Cardinal this year.
21.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hit another home run, I think, last night.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cardinals need to get more production out of the people that they have. It's really ridiculous when you look at how many good Cardinal players are bouncing around Major League Baseball that, for whatever reason, they couldn't turn into really good players here. And so I think that starts at the minor league level with development. Low A to high A to double A to triple A to the majors. This used to not happen with the Cardinals, and it doesn't happen with Atlanta.
Would the Cardinals say, I don't think they'd ever say we're in a rebuild, but could they retool, and would fans accept that? Because that's where you're at right now, in many ways, because of the young players, to try to have them grow to what you think they're going to be. Would fans buy into that? I think some fans would, not all.
I think it'd be very difficult with this regime, because I don't think that there's a tremendous amount of trust for the baseball side of this regime. And so I just don't think that you could come in here. Now, if you have somebody else come in and say, okay, be like Doug Armstrong. Say, hey, we're not going to be a great team. We're hoping that we can be in the middle of the pack in our league. If you get somebody to say that and then do things to get better. The Blues have their restricted free agents coming up at 8:30. If you do creative things to try to win, I think the fans would buy into that. But the Cardinals are in the midst of that right now. They just aren't saying it. Maybe they don't even know it, and the fans aren't responding.
And last year was not just a one-off. I think that this season is showing that it wasn't just a one-off, and they approached it as that was just a one-off. That was a mulligan year. We're going to come back this year, and things will be different. If you miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, then it's not a one-off. At this point, it's an alarming trend. It's a two-off. You're correct there. But there's more in the surface because the fans are not satisfied with just making it to the playoffs. They want to get past the first round, and you haven't been able to do that since 2019. And sometimes the message gets stale. When you're looking at the organization, when you're talking about the current regime, Randy, that was my first thought, is that sometimes the message gets stale, and there needs to be new voices, new eyes, new perspective coming into the organization. And I think that fans would be happy, to your question, Dan, about if it's a retool, if you are honest with the fans about that, then I think that as long as there's a new perspective that's also going along with that retool, fans would be accepting of that.
And by the way, all over the internet, that video of Bill DeWitt Jr., when he fired Mike Matheny, exists, saying, hey, in some towns, 500 is fine. In some towns, being a little bit above 500 is fine. Not in this town, not with this team. And so those are the words that the chairman of the franchise has out there on record. Hard to walk that one back.
No.
314 says it comes down to a manager problem. I don't agree. I don't know what else Ollie could do. You roll out the players that you have, and if the players aren't good enough, then they're not good enough. And I've always said, and it's so true, it's about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. And I'm not sure what else he could do in this spot. It's kind of been a hodgepodge of guys because of the injuries that you mentioned in the outfield. Would that make some fans happy? Probably. You're on one of the hottest seats in this town when you talk about sports and in coaching, and in this case, being a manager. I just don't see if you changed him that it would change all that much. I mean, if you go back to 2022, he was a pretty good manager. There was a lot of guys that were producing. Albert was great in the second half, and people weren't talking about the issues that you had at manager. I just don't see that changing that part of this organization would make that much of a difference. I should point this out, too. There's a lot of people that say, well, Ollie is just getting lineups from the front office. I've talked to Ollie about this. You know how many times he's been given a lineup? None.
Zero.
None. I mean, this is his lineup that he wants. And so, you know, you can change it all you want and sit there and say, well, he needs different lineups, need to run a little bit more. Well, you got to get on base. Can he do anything about runners in scoring position right now? No. Guys just don't hit in that spot. I don't know the answer. They don't know the answer either.
And at the end of the day, this is all it comes down to. And we talk about it, and it's old, and it's trite, but it's true. If Paul Goldschmidt and his 893 career OPS aren't at a 682 OPS, and if Nolan Arenado and his 860 OPS aren't at 717 OPS this year, this is a completely different team. If those guys were doing what they were supposed to do, and I get that they're old and they're past their prime, but you're expecting them to live up to their career numbers. They're not even going to be close to that. If those two guys do what they've done over the course of their careers, then we aren't even having this conversation. The Cardinals are right in the hunt comfortably in a playoff position.
And it is a bigger issue than just the manager in this situation or the coaching staff. It comes down to, I think a big part of this obviously is roster construction. Mosaic even mentioned last year that roster construction was a big part of this. We just talked about Jordan Walker. Look at the options that Ollie Marmol had to call up somebody when Matt Carpenter went on the IL when he was injured. It would either be Jordan Walker or it could have been Jose Fermin in that situation.
This most recent time?
Yes.
Koperniak, too. Matt Koperniak is tearing it up against right-handed pitch or left-handed pitching down there.
Well, or even Thomas Sajaci's another option, but then you would have to have made a 40-man roster move. There's a lot more that is going on between the surface or on the surface there, excuse me, because you need something bigger than just changing coaching or managerial position. That's not going to do anything at this point.
I go back to Randy. I mean, if Goldie and Arenado are hitting,
we don't even have the conversation.
You don't have this conversation.
We're really excited about this Milwaukee series.
Yeah. I mean, if they hit just a modicum of success of what they've done in the past, this is a team that's probably 5 or 10 above 500. And I know that's a lot to put on their shoulders, but a lot is expected when you make that money and you're the team leaders, and they've kind of put up the numbers that they have. If you just put up a little bit of the numbers they've had in the past, we're not having the conversation. It comes down to those two producing, and they just haven't this year.
Goldie turns 37 on September 10th, and his OPSs from the MVP year 2 years ago have gone from 981 to 810 to 682 over the course of those years. So not great. Dan, Brooke, Randy, coming up here on 101 ESPN, we're going to talk to Stan McNeal. The new Cardinal magazine is out. Going to talk to Stan about the Cardinals and that next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and I want to tell you why I love the Missouri Athletic Club. It's because it really feels like I've joined a community. I love going over to the West location and having lunch over there, playing some tennis with Scott. Tennis is a sport that I've played my entire life, and it's been so much fun to get back into it thanks to Scott. I also go over there and work out, and they provide such a wonderful experience, and that's why I love my MAC.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals are back in action after a day off yesterday. 6:45 first pitch as they start their series against the Milwaukee Brewers, and it'll be Frankie Montas for the Brewers facing off against Eric Fedde for the Cardinals. Fedde on the season 8-6 with a 3.40 ERA. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Brooke Grimsley, Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker, Opening Drive, 101 ESPN, and the new Cardinal magazine is out. You need to check it out. Biscuits is on the cover. Alec Burleson and Stan McNeal from Cardinals magazine, our friend from the Redbirds, joins us here on 101 ESPN. Stan, good morning. How you doing?
I'm great, Randy. How you guys?
Good. We've talked a lot about the joy that Alec Burleson plays with and lives with. He's a fun guy, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, and I think he's one of those guys that has always been like that. You know, he was telling me that he was the class clown in elementary school, and, you know, you can kind of see that now when you see him in the dugout interacting with his teammates.
Stan, we were just talking about everything. With the Cardinals, obviously, right now, things are not great, and it looks like the playoff hopes are very bleak at this point. And you have the Brewers coming in town starting today for a 3-game series, and they have 11-game lead in the division right now, so they are way far ahead of the Cardinals. We were discussing this. Do you think that the Brewers have really surpassed the Cardinals and other teams, obviously, in the division of being kind of the gold standard of the NL Central?
Well, if you look at the standings, you can't deny that. My question is, how have they done it? You know, I mean, this is a team that lost a lot, including its, you know, all-world manager last year and Craig Cancel, and it looks like it's even better this year. So, yeah, the Brewers have something going, no doubt about it.
Stan, you're down there every single day listening to Ollie and talking to players. What's the mood right now of this franchise, talking about players specifically and Ollie and his coaching staff as they move forward?
It's a little more subdued, I would say, than usual. You know, the media is allowed in for 50 minutes before games, and frankly, the players have not been in there when we're in there as often as they were, say, earlier in the season. You know, so that's understandable. They're getting their work done, maybe more on their own than talking to the media.
Hey, Stan, the Cardinals have some guys coming back. You're going to have Lance Lynn back, maybe even this week. You have Steven Matz right behind him. What do you think will happen from a pitching perspective, from a rotation perspective and a roster perspective when those guys come back? It doesn't look like there's an obvious answer when those guys return.
Yeah, there's going to be some difficult decisions to make, you know, because Lance, obviously, when he comes back, he's going to be in the rotation with Steven Matz. They haven't really said if he's going to start or he'll go into the bullpen, so that obviously is going to affect some things. But, no, there's some decisions to make, and while we're talking Lance a little bit, you gave me an opening to ask you guys a question, you know, but this season obviously hasn't been what the Cardinals wanted, but we have had a couple of guys reach pretty significant milestones. And Lance as you know, got 2,000 strikeouts earlier this year, and Paul Goldschmidt reached 2,000 hits. So when that happened kind of around the same time. So I looked it up and who do you think there have been more pitchers with 2,000 strikeouts or more hitters with 2,000 hits, since in the modern era of baseball?
Oh, this is good. I'm going to go with hitters.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, and it's not even close. I mean, I think there's 267 guys with 2,000 hits, at least 2,000 hits, and there's only 86 pitchers with 2,000 strikeouts, which tells me that strikeouts really weren't a thing, haven't been a thing for a long time.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bob Gibson was only the second guy to get to 3,000 strikeouts. Walter Johnson maybe before him, and then I think Gibby was the second one after that.
That would be about right. Guys just didn't strike out back in the day.
Stan, Quinn Matthews, I don't know if you saw this weekend, he continues to progress at every single level. And this past weekend in Springfield, he tossed 7 scoreless, giving up just 5 hits while striking out 11. Now, not trying to put too much pressure on the young pitcher, but do you think he could be a factor at some point next season for the Cardinals?
Absolutely. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could be up here this year. If they had a need in the bullpen and you wanted to get a look at him going into next season, absolutely, he is on a fast track. And the big difference is he's picked up a little velocity, he's gained a little weight, and he's also developed a really good curveball. Since he signed with the Cardinals. So the development of Quinn Matthews seems to be going really well, and exciting time. And that brings us to the first pick from this year, J.J. Weatherholt, who was, the 7th pick, highest pick the Cardinals have had since J.D. Drew back in the late 1990s. And J.J. could have been or was projected to be one of the top 2 or 3 picks, or even the top pick before he injured his hamstring in February. And right now, he's played for a few weeks now, and he's hitting the heck out of the ball. And he's another guy that I think could be on a fast track to St. Louis.
There's so much talk, Stan, about Jordan Walker, and when you're down there, you hear the questions about should he play every day or is he a platoon guy? How do you think this plays out down the stretch, knowing where you're at in the situation of being 11 games out and being out of the wild card at this point? How do you think they handle Jordan Walker moving forward?
Right now, I think Jordan is up here to help the team win. Ollie has talked a lot, tried to explain a lot about the difference in the splits. Jordan might hit lefties, or he can't even tell you which one right now, but Jordan is up here now to help the team win. And people say, he should be in the lineup every day. And, yeah, maybe, but we're at the end of August now, and I think Jordan can learn just by being around a team in a pennant race, even if he's not on the field every day. Just how things change in September when you are in a race. And when they brought him up, they definitely were in the race. Now you can kind of make the argument either way, but we've seen it happen here. If any place can turn this around, it's St. Louis, as we've seen twice. In 2011 and in 2021.
That is the senior writer for Cardinals Magazine, Stan McNeal, with us on 101 ESPN. A great photo of Alec Burleson on the cover of the latest edition. The Cardinal Yearbook is also out. And Stan, if people want to get a hold of those publications, what's the best way to do it?
Well, the best way is to go to the ballpark and get one, but you can also go online to cardinals.com/publications.
All right, Stan, always good to hear your voice. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
See you later. Stan McNeal, Cardinals Magazine, with us here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646.
It's a birthday yo-ho. That's two of them.
That's 2 of them.
Yeah.
314-399. Yo-ho! Tiola next on 101 ESPN.
We keep talking more NFL, and that's because the season is finally just around the bend. We're coming up on the best time of the year. Football season's here, and the best way to play your daily fantasy during football season is with our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Over 1 million fans got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. You can join in and compete against other underdogs to win up to 325 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your players' favorite stats. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative in my entry today that we're building for the Cardinals and Brewers game. I am going to go with a little bit more of a high-scoring game. We're going to count on some hits actually happening between these two teams, and we're getting good numbers on it because we're going against the grain a little bit. We're going to go higher than 1.5 total bases on both Mason Wynn and William Contreras for the Brewers, and then we're also going to go higher on the hits allowed for both the starters today. That's Eric Fedde, higher 4.5 hits allowed, and higher than 5 hits allowed for Frankie Montas. Making picks on Underdog is so simple and even easier to get started. Just go to their mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog will give you a highly discounted pick to use on your first pick 'em entry, plus a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC, to claim your new customer offer of a gimme first pick and that deposit offer. Must be 18 plus in President's Day where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumer with your play call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
It or leave it.
Want to say something? Put it out there. You like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Time for Tioli here on 101 ESPN. And guys, they got a kerfuffle going down in Miami. Tua Tagovailoa on the Dan Le Batard show when asked about playing for Brian Flores for the first 2 years of his career, and now Mike McDaniel. He took a little shot at Brian Flores. He said, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you're the best fit for this. How would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? Take it or leave it. Tua did not need to say that about Brian Flores.
Take that 100%. You don't need to throw him under the bus. You need to keep that in-house. Maybe have a face-to-face meeting with him at some point down the road. I understand that Brian Flores is with a different organization, but you may hinder his ability to get another job as a head coach, too. And I think that's part of this that you have to look at as well.
Agreed. But do you leave it for the fact of, well, if it was really happening and he is going out for another job, if you are a team or if you're a young player hearing that, especially in this day and age where we know a lot of young players, you might need to butter them up a little bit more. Is that something that you exactly want to have coaching up a young quarterback after you hear that from Tua?
I think Brian Flores needed to hear it, but maybe not in a public forum.
That's where I'm going.
But that's kind of where it's turned now, right?
Yeah.
And what does it do for Tua to come out and say that? I think it puts more pressure on him this year moving forward with the coaching staff that he's currently playing for. I think there's more pressure on him now.
Yeah. I wonder now, looking back, though, that year wasn't Justin Herbert. I don't think there was a guy that Miami could have taken rather than Tua. I think Herbert, well, maybe he did go 6th. So maybe that's what Flores was thinking, is that he wanted somebody else there. When he was telling Tua, allegedly, he wanted somebody else there rather than Tua.
Yeah. What are you laughing at, Rocc? Was it that comment or no? Oh, okay. I thought that
I'm not
you
on
wanted
the air
to
right now. You guys are having a different conversation than what I'm doing back here.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I'm reading tweets. Or texts, I mean.
Okay. So anyways, as we know, the deadline is coming up here soon, 8:30 Central Time, by the way, if for those who are wondering, for the offer sheets to happen. As of right now, the Oilers have not matched the offer sheet for Philip Broberg and for Dylan Holloway. Take it or leave it. The Blues will land both of them.
I'm going to take it. I'm going to be, and I don't know if this is optimistic or pessimistic, but in terms of just getting the players, I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say that I'm going to take that. I'm going to say the Blues get both.
I'm going to leave it. I think they get one. Edmonton did clear a little space, clearly to try to make this thing work. So I think they get one, but not both. I hope they get both. It'd be fun to see. It's exciting for the game.
They traded a defenseman, Cody Ceci. I wonder if that was the move because Broberg is more expensive, or if they're just going to keep Holloway.
And that's where I'm going. I think the defenseman stays, the other goes, and we'll see a new face here in St. Louis. That's where I'm at. All right, take it or leave it. This is the first time in 33 years that no team in baseball has a 600 winning percentage this late in a season. It's possible this will be the first time since 1959 that no team wins 95 or more games. Take it or leave it. That's a good thing for baseball.
I'll take that.
Little parody, fun with the wild card. I mean, if you're a Cardinal fan, you're holding out hope for the wild card, 11 out in the Central. I guess you maybe have a chance in the wild card. You got to jump through a lot of hoops and go over a lot of teams. Yeah. You got to go through a lot of teams, but it does leave a lot of fan bases with hope, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that I will take it too. And also, does 100 wins even guarantee you anything anymore?
No.
So it's not even something exciting to look forward to if you're a team.
No, the Cardinal 100-win teams, 85 they lost the World Series, 04 they lost the World Series, and 15 they got knocked out in the first round. And the teams that won the World Series were 80-plus win teams. They weren't even 90-win teams. So, by the way, the Giants did knock off the White Sox last night. White Sox on pace for 124 losses.
Incredible how bad they are. I watched them the other night. I mean, that is like the bad news Bears.
30 and 96. 30 wins and 96 losses. They'll get to 100 losses before September.
It's incredible. That just shouldn't that shouldn't happen in Major League Baseball.
No,
it just shouldn't.
Matthew,
anytime a team violates everyone loses 54, everybody wins 54.
Yeah, right?
Anytime you violate that tenant, or on the other side you're the Mariners and you beat it the other way, it's a historic season. It's unbelievable. God, they suck. Here's what I was laughing about.
Oh, and Jordan Hicks got his first save for the Giants in that game last night.
Oh, how about that?
Okay, sorry, Matthew.
Snip, snap. Take it or leave it. Lutz signs Josh Sargent, but then he sells him to Real Madrid in 3 years in exchange for Kylian Mbappe.
Take it.
Randy, did you text that in?
No, but I should have.
I'm going to have to leave it if we're being serious here. But
now, Randall, what's your fascination with Mbappe?
The name.
You just like the Mbappe.
That's all it took.
You like saying it.
He is a really good player.
I wouldn't know him if I saw him in the Six Produce department. I guess he's probably good. I don't know.
Really?
But he's got a great name. Would you know him if you saw him in the Six Produce department?
I would,
Mbappe?
yes, because I've seen him all over the place, obviously. But not here at Schnucks. Sorry, I didn't want to get you excited about that.
I would know Messi.
Sure.
So
Ronaldo, you would, yes.
Here's a serious question. Do you think they bring Josh Sargent home?
I do.
I do too.
Love that.
Yeah.
I do too. I think it'll wind up happening.
I think they know that they need to have they need to have a focal point to sell. And Berkey is great, and Berkey does a lot of commercials. But having a St. Louis guy to sell and make the focal point of your sales efforts, I think is important, because I could see them with those tickets are not cheap, and with this season the way it's gone, I could see them needing to have a marketable player.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. Face of the franchise type thing. Hometown kid coming back.
Yeah.
Be cool.
And a redhead. How about that, Brooke?
Oh, yes.
Ginger.
More redheads.
A ginger.
More redheads. More redheads.
Did we just trade one?
Oh.
Parks?
Yeah, you're right. So you have to have at least one on the team. It's kind of a rule.
Who's the Cardinals guy? Oh, just a soccer thing. Okay.
I said, just a soccer thing, but I mean, maybe you should have at least one redhead on your team, a fiery redhead.
There we go. Rex Hudler.
Take it or leave it. The Lions make it to the Super Bowl. God, I hope so.
Leave it.
I'll leave it.
They will not get past San Francisco. San Francisco will be in the NFC Championship again. Brandon Ayuk will put up big numbers. He'll still be a 49er. They got so many weapons. Nope. Don't see him getting past the 49ers.
Yeah, it'll be hard.
Take it or leave it. The Lions don't even win their division.
I'm going to leave that.
Packers.
I'm going to leave that. I think the Lions, after the success that they had last year, the momentum, the head coach, I love them. They're fun to watch.
They are fun.
I might have to take it just because I'm high on the Packers and Jordan Love right now.
Packers have a good young offensive line. They have a good group of young receivers. They signed Josh Jacobs. Defensively, they've been building through the draft for a long time now. I think a lot of it is going to come down to how well their defense performs under Mark Hafley, their new defensive coordinator, former head coach at BC.
take it or leave it. Victor Scott starts more games than Jordan Walker in 2025.
Here's the interesting thing. Before you guys answer that, I think the Cardinals are facing 10 right-handed pitchers coming up in a row.
Mm-hmm.
How much does Jordan Walker play?
None.
He's got to play some. But if you go on what you hear against facing lefties, yeah, that's not a lot of playing time for him.
You're talking about starting in a game.
Yeah. Yep.
How many
For
games
sure.
will he start then?
I think he starts half. 5 out of the 10.
He should start more than that. But yes, wow, that will be really tough.
But what do you do? I mean, if he's hitting, I think he's 1 for 11 to start his return to Major League Baseball. What do you do if he's 2 for 33 or 4 or 5 for 40?
You got to play him. You got to get him 40 at bats.
Yeah.
Part of the 1 for 11 is that there's no opportunity to get into a groove.
I agree with that. You do get momentum one way or the other, and just seeing pitches, being comfortable, and not looking over your shoulder and understanding that you're going to be in the lineup every day. Like if you go to him and say you're going to be in the lineup, good, bad, and different every single day, I think there is a way to relax a player. And I think part of the problem with Dylan Carlson was that he felt like every time he went out there, he had to go 3 for 4. Mm-hmm. If not, he's not going to play.
Randall Grichuk said that.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of what's going on with Walker a little bit, too.
Yeah, you're looking over your shoulder. Yeah, it's unnecessary.
So who does get more at-bats? Who plays more, Victor Scott or Walker? I think it depends on. No, the question was about the remainder of this year.
2025.
No,
I thought they said 2025.
The tweet was for 2025, but honestly, I think the rest of the years is just as good, if not a better question.
But I'm going to go for next year, because Siani will be back. I would go J-Dub.
I would too.
I will, yeah. But for this year, I think that's also a really good question, Dan, because what happens if Matt Carpenter does return soon? Does Walker get sent down?
See, I would send Gorman down, but and you know what'll happen is, as you guys talked about yesterday, the differing views of the Pobo, apparently some philosophical differences between the Pobo and the manager about the use of Jordan Walker. I have to believe that the Pobo goes down, and I know that we talked earlier about Ollie not being told what the lineup is, but Ollie's going to get told, hey, you got to play Walker.
I'm curious, Randall. Yesterday was your birthday.
Yeah.
And you were listening to the show.
No, Brooke just said they were talking about it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get an opportunity. I apologize.
Oh, man. I mean, at that moment, you could have said, yeah, I was listening.
Yeah. But Brooke,
totally.
You brought it up.
I did bring it up during one of our breaks. There is differing opinions, and we can bring that up here during the course of that show of the two different perspectives that they had, obviously, about Jordan Walker.
Yeah, I'm trying to pay attention to the show. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
I'm apologizing. I'm telling you.
I mean, there's balloons in the room. There's cookie cake.
There's donuts.
Yeah.
Speaking of philosophical differences, are we witnessing another one? Next on 101 ESPN. Okay, you know that you got to go to the Fenton Barn Grill today, whether you want a great lunch out on their exquisite patio. With the weather as it is in St. Louis, head on over to the Fenton Barn Grill and enjoy some of those glorious trashed wings. The best wings that you'll ever have are at the Fenton Barn Grill, but it's more than the Fenton Barn Grill. It's the vibe. It's the dive with a vibe. Stop by the Fenton Barn Grill and say hi to Megan or the fiery redhead Kelly. She'll be there. Casey will be there. It's a great group of people that are going to be serving you, and they're going to be serving you great food. You start with those trashed wings. You get maybe that chicken Caesar wrap, which is delicious. They've got great burgers at the Fenton Barn Grill, and their sandwiches, their turkey sandwiches, sensational. Now, when you go to the Fenton Barn Grill, tell them Randy sent you, and they'll treat you really well. They treat everybody really well, even if you don't listen to 101 ESPN, but they're great people over there. You can go in and watch the Cardinal game. You'll be talking sports with people that love sports like you do. You'll just have a great time at the Fenton Barn Grill. It's on Rudder Road in Fenton, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park. Learn more at FentonBarnGrill.com or check them out on Facebook. And just know that when you go, you need to say, Randy sent you.
So this was
A fresh perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
We all remember 3 years ago when Mike Schilt was summarily dismissed by the Cardinals for what was termed by the Pobo, John Mozeliak, as philosophical differences. The all-encompassing but unknown philosophical differences. And so we always have our antenna up when the possibility of philosophical differences occur here in St. Louis with the Cardinals. And Brooke, I know you took notice the other day when Mo made his weekly appearance on Sports on a Sunday Morning with Tom Ackerman on KMOX and had an interesting quote.
credit to BK on this one because we discussed this a lot yesterday, but definitely want to get you guys your perspective on this. So Mo on KMOX on Sunday about Jordan Walker, he said, ultimately, we need to look at what the schedule looks like and map out a plan. If we are not going to find everyday at-bats for Walker, we'll have to rethink it.
Which leads me to believe that Mozeliak, wants Jordan Walker to play every day, which we have said, Dan. We said if he's going to be here, he's got to play all the time.
I agree. And I, you know, the philosophical differences, I don't really look at it that way. I just look at it that, you know what, Ollie does not get the lineup from the front office. And I'm telling you, I've talked to him about that. He said, not any time, at any point in time, I've been the manager, have I gotten a lineup that says, you need to play this guy. I would imagine, though, that those two are getting together, and they have to be, and mapping out what is best for the organization and then trying to find out what's going on with Jordan Walker. I would assume that the series in Cincinnati didn't help. Obviously, what happened with the Dodgers didn't help, and you have to have a realistic point of view about where you're at. And That's the one thing with Ollie. I think Ollie's saying, look, we're going to fight this thing down to the final game when we're eliminated. But I think you have to have an honest evaluation of where you're at in the standings and when you start to look towards 2025. In my mind, you're probably a week away. You go into September, week and a half, and if you're not playing good baseball, then you have to look at going forward with Jordan Walker. Now, what if the question would be is, and we talked about this, what if he's 4 for 50? Still play him? Bury him? I don't know. I just don't know the answer to that.
I think it's a really interesting question there because with Jordan Walker, you want to make sure that he builds back up that confidence, but you also, in their eyes, they're not completely out of the playoffs just yet. They haven't been completely eliminated. I know that in a lot of fans' minds, they are eliminated and things look very bleak right now, and rightfully so. But at the same time, do you play the younger player or do you play the veteran player? And I think that this is where maybe the difference is coming from, because you hear that quote from Mozeliak, and then you hear the approach that Ollie has in this situation with bringing up Jordan Walker, where they want that righty bat that's a platoon player that can come in against lefties, even though that we talk about how well he's done career-wise against righties. It seems like that's the way that Ollie wants to utilize him. And I'm seeing, at least from what I can see there, is that he wants to put a more veteran bat in that situation and have him start every day like a Tommy Pham. And we talked about Tommy Pham when he came in. At first they said he was going to be a platoon bat, and now he's not essentially that for this team. So it's just very interesting to see the difference in opinion between what Ollie Marmol is saying, what John Mozeliak is saying. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier when it comes to organizational philosophy, when we were just talking about philosophical differences. This offseason, I think there has to be a difference in approach when it comes to the philosophy of the organization, because obviously it's not working and everybody needs to be on the same page. Randy, you said this. It needs to be linear. It needs to be a collaborative effort from the top all the way down to the bottom of the organization.
And my bottom line belief is that whether it's here or in Memphis, Jordan Walker should be playing every day. You don't benefit him, and long term you don't benefit your organization by sitting him. And when they brought him up, Ollie told John Denton, he said, quote, "The big league team has a need and it's a right-handed bat." So that's the simplest way to look at it. It's not May, it's the end of the year. You have a limited amount of games left, and our biggest struggle has been against left-handed pitchers. And this was to start a 10-game stretch. He said, yes, we know it's only Kershaw, and Milwaukee has all right-handed starters for the most part. So we were aware of that going into how we made this decision, but there's also left-handed relievers where he can take an at-bat against. We have a need against lefties, and it has to be someone that could play an outfield position. So that was the thought process. I also don't love the idea of Jordan Walker having to come in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning and face a 100-mile-an-hour reliever.
I'm with you. That'll bury you in. That'll get you really quickly. It's one of the toughest things to do in sports is to come in and pinch hit, especially with the specialization of bullpens. The question for me, and this is a broader-based question, it's not just Walker. Do you want to watch Gorman? Do you want to watch Donovan play every day? Do you want to see Burleson against left-handed pitching? I do. I want to see what I got if I'm the Cardinals from an organizational standpoint. I guess, though, I'd have to ask this. At what point are you realistically saying we are out of both races, and then at that point you play these young kids for the rest of the way through?
And then you have to make the difficult decision with Paul Goldschmidt at first base.
That's where I'm going. But, you approach him and say, look, man, we got to find out about some of these guys. And you know what? You're a great pro, but understand where you're at in your career. Understand what we need to do. And we got to move forward with some young guys down the stretch here.
Don't you think we can find out that answer in this series against the Brewers this week?
We already have. Realistically, anybody who's realistic knows what the answer is with this team.
And it's not just this series.
No.
It's the midst of being in the 22-game stretch of all these very good teams that you're going to face.
And not only that, but look at your rotation. Are you ever going to have a stretch? And I know the Cardinals had a stretch where they went 33-18. But with this rotation, and this team would need to play 700 ball, is there any scenario in which you could see the Cardinals winning 14 out of 20 with this rotation?
No,
I can't see it.
No. So let me rephrase it then. So could this series, though, be the nail in the coffin with what you guys are talking about of, in the organization standpoint, okay, now let's just let the young guguys play after this series?
So. I don't know if they'll do it, Brooke, but I would. Here's the thing, and Michelle and I got a text a few years ago, and we laughed at it, that the Cardinals winning in 2011 was a net negative. Now, it's never a negative to win a World Series. But that year did give the Cardinals unrealistic belief that they can do that again and again and again, and they can't.
But who was a part of that 2011 team?
Yeah, you had Carpenter and Pujols and Berkman.
Some big stars.
You had a pretty... somebody, who did we have on last week that talked about Carpenter saying, hey, let's just go out and play hard and see what happens?
Yeah, that was Jason Mott.
Yeah. We don't have that. First of all, we don't have that guy to take the mound and lead by that example.
I think fans would be open to the idea of letting the young kids play.
100%.
Good, bad, and different. Yep. Even if guys really struggle, I think fans would say, okay, at least we're getting an idea of what these guys can do, because you're going to face some pretty good teams here down the stretch. You're going to be at home at one point, 13 out of 16. I think you let the young kids play and see what you got.
Let's put Burley at first. You know, I think ultimately Brendan Donovan's got to be the second baseman on this team anyway. Mm-hmm. So Donovan at second, Wynn at short, Arenado at third. Any group of, when Ciani comes back, Nootbaar, Ciani, Scott, Walker in the outfield. Pages behind the plate is fine. Give Contreras his opportunities back there. Contreras DHing.
Would you have an issue, though? How concerned, let me put it this way. How concerned would you be if you played Gorman? And I'm going to throw Walker in there. So those are the two I'd really be focused on. How concerned would you be, though, if they go down the stretch and they just fall flat on their face? You know what I mean? And you go into an off season and you say, well, we gave you this shot and you got buried, so good luck going into spring training next year.
Gorman, it won't be any different. He already has. So
good point.
He's already on his face.
So, I think you need to see what you have.
I would be concerned about Walker, but then if you're young, potentially great players continue to fail, then you have to analyze why that's happening, and then you have to try to fix him with other people.
And I think also you have to look at addressing this offensively in your offense or in your off season, because as we talked about earlier, your pitching staff looks to be primarily set. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, it looks set. So what are you going to do to make this team a better offensive team? And I can't believe we're saying that, because 5 months ago, I thought this would be the last thing that we're talking about, not having success swinging the bat.
Well, and you mentioned Paul Goldschmidt earlier. Who's going to be your first baseman next season? You have to go ahead and figure that out for next year, too. Obviously, Burleson has been taking the majority of the reps at first base when Goldie is sitting out. But you have a lot of things that you have to figure out with these young guys. Am I worried about it, to your question? Am I worried about if they fall flat, those younger players towards the end? No, not necessarily. Now, I understand that last year, Mason Wynn, that was his first time being called up to the bigs. He struggled, remember, down the stretch there, and it wasn't great going into the offseason. But then look at how things quickly evolved for him going into this year.
Yeah, you get experience.
Experience, and know what you need to work on going into the offseason. Alec Burleson is another great point there, too, because all the adjustments that he made during the offseason led to a great start for him this year.
Coming up on 101 ESPN, the reporting says that both offer sheets will not be matched. So we'll talk about Edmonton apparently ready to match one.
No, both are not going to be matched.
We'll get both?
Yes, right now Nick Kypreos both actually just tweeted out that he said the players have informed the Edmonton Oilers. Both players told Edmonton Oilers will not be matching. They are now members of the St. Louis Blues, and that's from Nick Kypreos.
Okay.
And pretty much every other reporting, Elliot Friedman, Andy Strickland, every other piece of reporting I've seen on Twitter in the last 10 minutes has switched strongly to the Oilers are not going to be matching either one. Broberg and Holloway are St. Louis Blues.
Great. Thank you, sir. And we'll talk about that next time, 101 ESPN. Hey, if you're in the market to sell your home, you need to call Gloria Lou with your home sold guaranteed realty. Gloria is fantastic. Her number, 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888. What makes her fantastic, Randy, you ask? Well, I got a lot of things for you. Number one, she has 20 years of experience in the business, and over that time, she has collected a database of buyers that are ready right now to buy a home in your price range and in your neighborhood. And Gloria can find those people for you, and she can find multiple people that are going to make offers on your home so that you get the most money. And that's really what we want. We want to sell fast and for the most money, and Gloria can help you do that. And here's the thing with Gloria. If you don't sell fast and for the most money to your specifications, she will buy your home, and that is guaranteed in writing. So that's all you need to have is a home selling promise from Gloria Lou. She's amazing. 314-325-6888. She has the buyers, and you can visit her at gloriahasthebuyers.com. As always, Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. To learn more, visit gloriahasthebuyers.com. Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway have been informed by the Edmonton Oilers that they are St. Louis Blues. The Oilers have not decided to match, so the Blues will send a second-round pick and a third-round pick to Edmonton. Both Holloway and Broberg on their way to St. Louis. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mack, Randy Carricker, and our buddy Andy Strickland from the Cam and Strick podcast joins us here on 101 ESPN. He's all over Blues coverage. Good morning, Andrew. How you doing?
Couldn't be better, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great, and you have the story up, and you are, I'm sure, going to talk about it soon on Cam and Strick. But first of all, how does this affect the Blues roster? Do they have too many guys right now on their roster?
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded with one-way contracts. So, a couple things are in play, whether it's a potential move with a trade, which is always possible. I mean, you look at the Blues defense, even before the acquisition of Broberg, I think they had 8 guys with one-way contracts when you factor in Perunovic and Tyler Tucker as well. So somebody's going to be out, whether that's putting a player down in the minors and, exposing them to waivers, I guess remains to be seen. And I would imagine Doug Armstrong was getting out in front of it in terms of talking to teams in the event that they got Broberg, obviously, to, join the team defensively, what that next move will look like. And then up front, I mean, listen, you've got guys who obviously are still on entry-level contracts. Most notably, a guy like Zachary Bolduc, for example, who can obviously go down. But, you bring on, the Alexander Tessier, who came over from Columbus. People haven't really talked a whole lot about him, but, teams, certainly speak highly of him around the league. There were a number of teams that had interest in bringing him on board. He was kind of lost in the shuffle there in Columbus, and we'll see, how he's able to translate here in St. Louis. But you have him. You've got Radek Faksa, who they brought on board. You got, the Matthew Joseph kids, so the two Joseph brothers who are here. So, the Nathan Walkers of the world. I mean, listen, there's going to be some real competition come, training camp, and we'll see where Oscar Sundqvist is in terms of his availability when camp gets going as he's recovering from, ACL surgery. But there's no doubt there's going to be a lot of competition, and you can only keep 23. So what does that look like? Does that look like 14 forwards and 7D and 2 goalies? Do they keep 13 forwards and try to, hang on to an extra D and in the event that they're, fearful that they're going to lose a player to the waiver wire? So, listen, training camp just got that much more interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how this shakes out.
Andy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I wanted to ask you about, with Broberg and Holloway coming in, how much does it change the dynamic of the Blues with these two additions?
Well, I think it changes things a little bit. I mean, you get two guys who were drafted in the first round in recent years. I mean, in the case of Philip Broberg, this guy is a, elite NHL skater. I mean, and he kind of got lost in the shuffle there the last couple of years in Edmonton. I think there was some real frustration. He asked for a trade not once but twice to get out of there. And it wasn't until this season when the coaching change happened that, they got, they gave him a real opportunity, although he didn't get an opportunity until late in the season. I think he played 12 regular season games and 10 in the playoffs. But he was drafted 8th overall for a reason. And, you talk to people close to Broberg, the one guy that gets a ton of credit is Paul Coffey, who joined that coaching staff. And he really got that defense playing with a lot of tempo and getting up into the play and using their skating ability. And obviously, in the case of Broberg, that's the natural way that he likes to play. So you're going to see a dynamic skater and a guy who obviously is comfortable with the puck on his stick. He can quarterback a power play. I think that's a real need for the Blues, especially when you look at the Torrey Krug situation. You've got Scotty Perunovich, but again, Broberg is a guy who, probably brings a different level of play in terms of, his ability to play that position. And, listen, $4.5 million, is a pretty significant pay, increase versus, what was on the table, what was being offered from Edmonton. I was told in the last couple of days, the latest offer from Edmonton was a 2-year deal at 1.1 before he signed his offer sheet. So he's going from, 1.1 that was on the table to now making 4.5 over the course of the next 2 years. He's going to be put in position, whether that's with Parayko, whether that's with Falk, where he's going to be able to be, most likely in a top 4 role, play significant minutes, but like I said, also be a big part of their power play. So he's probably going to earn that money. It's probably going to be the equivalent of what somebody should be paid, when you look at the role that he's going to have on the team. But there's no doubt he's a dynamic player who is going to, bring some elite skating ability to the back end right now for the Blues.
Strick, I thought they'd get one of them. I didn't think they'd get both, but they did. League-wide, what's the reaction? Are folks surprised that this took place? And what's your personal reaction in terms of being surprised that this took place?
Well, I'm with you, especially when you saw some of the deals that came down over the course of, the last couple of days with Edmonton. I will say this. Listen, these are very strategic. Teams attack other teams that are in a position where it's going to be very difficult to match. I don't think you're looking just to screw over a team and put them in a jam. Usually they already are in a jam, and you take advantage of that. And the intention is to get the player. And in this case, too, it's pretty interesting how it goes down because, Blake Robson, who's the, agent for Dylan Holloway, is a relatively young agent. I think he has one other client. I don't want to be disrespectful and call him inexperienced, but the reality is he doesn't have a ton of experience. And the one guy who had been mentoring him and who had been helping him just so happens to be the agent for Philip Broberg, Darren Ferris, who's got a ton of experience. And, there were actually 2 other teams, and I was told there's 3 NHL teams, and I can't tell you who the 2 others are because I don't know. who are prepared to make offers to Philip Broberg. These teams met with the agent for Broberg at the Hlinka-Gretzky tournament that recently took place in Edmonton, of all places. And 3 teams had interest, but they kept circling back to St. Louis. And it was Doug Armstrong's idea with the agent because obviously the agent knew where things were at with Holloway and the Edmonton Oilers. He was talking with Holloway. And it was Army's idea to say, hey, well, let's go ahead and offer both of them because that was going to make things really difficult for Edmonton. And it was going to be hard for them to match. Now, they did, clear some space. The wild card was going to be, Evander Kane. Was he going to be willing to go on long-term injury? Where was he at with his hip injury? Is he going to need surgery? Does he want surgery? Is he willing to have surgery? So I don't know if they were able to get all those things worked out with Edmonton. But there was a disconnect there between Broberg and the Oilers that has been going on for quite some time now with him asking out and wanting a trade and some frustration there on his side. So that's how we got to where we are right now. But if you're asking me if I'm surprised, listen, whenever something like this happens, which we hardly ever see, if ever, right, where 2 players get offered at the same time, I mean, you're not expecting both players to walk. You're probably expecting the team to at least try to identify, how they can keep one. And in this case, they didn't choose to keep either. So now both are coming to St. Louis, and one's 22 and one's 23. And if you look at the Blues' pool of talent they have now that are 24 and under, I mean, even including Jake Neighbors and, obviously Joel Hofer, for example, but, you don't even get into the Dvorskys and the Snuggeruds and the 2 Swedes they drafted in the first round last year and the first round pick they had this year. They've got a lot of young talent. So, again, options for Doug Armstrong moving forward with how he wants to utilize this talent. Is he going to plug and play him here in St. Louis over the course of the next 5 years, or are we going to see some moves for some veteran guys in an effort to get this team back to a contending level?
Strick, thanks so much for coming on short notice. Always good to hear your voice. Thank you very much. Hope your summer is going great, and we'll see you at a rink soon.
Same with you guys. I appreciate it. Danny Mac, talk soon, man. I hope you're doing great, too.
You too,
Thanks
buddy.
to hear your voice.
You too, buddy. Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy.
Guys. Yep.
Andy Strickland with us on 101 ESPN. Again, Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg are now members of your St. Louis Blues.
Wow, I cannot believe that Doug Armstrong was able to pull off an aggressive move. As Andy mentioned there, Broberg will be quite expensive, and that was probably one of the big reasons why the Oilers didn't bring him back. But they were making some moves. We talked about it. They were making some moves going into this deadline, and I thought for sure that they would keep at least one of them, especially Broberg. But it looks like the Blues are landing both of them now, and it stays in line with Doug Armstrong and his vision of keeping this team young in that age range that he was talking about.
And we have questions about Jordan Kyrou, but when you look at the ability, as opposed to the Cardinals, of the Blues to evaluate young talent, it looks like a guy like Joel Hofer is going to be really good. It looks like Jake Neighbors is going to be a good player. Robert Thomas has emerged to being a really good player. Since the Blues made the switch, and they'd never really gone young under Doug Armstrong, they'd always made trades and had veteran players. Since they made the switch to go to young players, seems to me that they've done a pretty good job of evaluating said young players.
How about defensively? You could have Broberg and Parayko, 2 guys that can skate as well as anybody. You'd have Leddy and Falk. You had Suter and Kessel. Not bad.
No.
And then throw Perunovic in there?
Yeah. I mean, you've really retooled this whole thing and done it with youth.
Yeah.
And so that's what's exciting to your point, Brooke. I mean, you got guys that are, as Andy mentioned, 24 or under, Neighbors, Dvorsky, Snuggerud. You're hoping you're going to add Snuggerud at some point once the college season ends. So I like it. I think it's a lot of fun to talk about going into the season.
We love transactions.
We do. And what a shocking one. You really don't see offer sheets that often. I know that, Rocc, you had the numbers on this earlier, but it's so rare that you see offer sheets, and I didn't know what to expect going into this.
First one in the history of the league signed by the St. Louis Blues when they signed Scott Stevens back in 1991.
Don't talk about that yet, Randall.
What? Oh, when they got him from Washington.
Yeah, I know. Just... we got the fight coming up.
Yeah. Oh, how did we do in the fight yesterday? Did we win? Did we win again?
Well, there's a reason I'm saying it.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Because it might be involved in a question or two. I don't know.
Sorry about that.
Uh-oh.
Brooke, did you win yesterday?
I did. Yes. Just
You're
slightly.
You're undefeated, aren't you?
I think that to be fair, I don't think I get as hard of questions as you do.
I was bragging
yes.
on you yesterday that you're undefeated in my absence.
Oh, thank you.
So
well, and then you're about to be out a little bit more here soon, so. Aren't you taking Labor Day week off?
Oh, yeah, I am.
You got a whole week you're taking off?
Yeah, I've got stuff going on. I've got a golf tournament with my friends at Fenton Bar and Grill.
Nice.
I've got a Cardinal Glennon golf tournament going on. We've got the sport. I think it's the same week. The Hall of Fame going on. So all kinds of stuff happening.
I think your induction is on September 5.
September 5th. It is. Yes, sir.
September 5th.
Yeah. So I got to update my calendar, figure out when I'm on vacation. So anyway, we need a fighter. 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. Send in your name and the word fight, and maybe Matthew will pick you to fight me next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is right around the corner, and you know what that means. Fall is also just right around the corner. And with cooler temperatures on the way, it's time to make sure that your home is ready to go. If you've been dealing with drafty windows all summer, struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before the cold weather starts to come in. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes the windows perform better, last longer, and help keep your home comfortable no matter the season. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home, and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. So your windows from Universal perform better and they last longer. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free, plus 0% financing for 60 months. That is 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. So go to uwd.com. That's uwd.com. And like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
This is Rocky with your SportsCenter update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The big news right now in St. Louis is that Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, formerly of the Edmonton Oilers, are on their way to the St. Louis Blues, as the Oilers will not match their offer sheets, and that means the Blues have added a defenseman and a winger for next year. Also, Cardinals back in action today after yesterday's day off. 6:45 first pitch. Frankie Montas faces off against the Cardinals' Eric Fedde. That is your SportsCenter update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocchio here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter today is Tom. Tom, how are you doing this morning?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great this morning. You are getting Randy on his birthday week. Yesterday was his birthday, but as you know, it's Randy Palooza birthday week. So you're getting him in rare form. Yeah. Is this your first time facing him in the fight?
No, actually, I faced him twice, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, and we tied. Well, he beat me both times in overtime.
Are you nervous at all?
Nah. I'm older than him.
Really? So you're 41, 42?
6.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, here we go with question 1.
All right, you ready, Tom?
Yeah, I got my thinking cap on.
Here we go. Which NFL franchise has played in the most playoff games in franchise history with 67? Is it the Cowboys, the Steelers, or the Broncos?
Which franchise has played the most in franchise history? Okay.
Playoff games, yes.
All right. Can you give me the question? I mean, the answers again?
Yeah. Cowboys, Steelers, or Broncos?
I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Is that your final answer, Tom?
Yes, sir.
All right, question 2. The only pair of teammates to both hit 50 home runs in the same season were two Yankees. Which pairing was it? Was it Ruth Gehrig, A-Rod Giambi, or Mantle and Maris?
Let's go with Ruth and Gehrig. Can't really beat them.
Is that your final answer, Tom?
Yes, sir.
On to question 3.
We will be joined by Super Bowl champion Torry Holt at 9:15. Holt originally wore number 88 for the Rams, but which season did he switch to his more iconic number 81 jersey? Was it 2000, 2001, or 2002?
He was drafted 2002.
Final answer, Tom?
Yes, sir.
In the summer of 94, which restricted free agent were the Blues caught tampering with, costing them cash compensation and a future first-round pick? Was it Marty McSorley, Peter Nedved, or Scott Stevens?
Well, I think Stevens got took away from him, right? I'll take him, Stevens.
All right, let me go grab Randall.
How are you feeling, Tom?
Not as good as I do when you read the answers already. I'm 100%, yeah.
That is fair. All right, here comes Randy, and right now, no grapes today. He forgot his cooler, Tom, if you want to update on the grades. So I know that some people like that, but he is powered by donuts and cookies this morning.
Yeah, we got a lot. And
maybe I got him on a sugar high. He can't answer right.
You may. That very well could be the case.
Randy, say hi to Tom.
Tom, good morning. How you doing?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing.
Ready for question number 1?
I'm ready.
Okay. Which NFL franchise has played in the most playoff games in franchise history with 67?
67 playoff games. Huh. Well, The Packers have played in a lot, but since the advent of the expanded playoffs, Cowboys have played in a lot. They made the playoffs for 20 consecutive years, or at least won their division, I think, for 20 consecutive. Or not? No, I think they were in the playoffs for 20 straight years. Patriots had that incredible run here, and it's where it took at least 3 or 4 to make the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh since 1970 has been awesome. So I'm going to go from 1970 on. It used to be that you could get to the Super Bowl like the Rams did in 1999 by winning just 2 games. I think, though, played in the most, right? Not won the most. I think I'm going to go with the Steelers.
Final answer, Randall?
Yeah.
Are you ready for question 2?
Yes, sir.
The only pair of teammates to both hit 50 home runs in the same season were 2 Yankees. Which pairing was it?
I would say that would be Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, 61 and 56 in 1961. I'm going to go with the 2 Yankees, Maris and Mantle.
Final answer?
Yes, sir. I know they did it, and if they're the only pair, then they did it.
Did you ever see the movie 61?
I did, directed by Billy Crystal, right?
And scenes were at the old Tiger Stadium?
Yeah, and the guy that played Roger Maris looked just like him.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was great. Good
Great movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Billy Crystal directed that.
He did,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, John Key fan.
All right. Are you ready for question 3?
I am.
We will be joined by Super Bowl champ Torry Holt at 9:15. Holt originally wore number 88 for the Rams, but which season did he switch to his more iconic number 81 jersey?
So after the 2001 season when Oz Hakeem moved over, actually it was after the 2000 season when Oz moved over to the Detroit Lions. And I think Torry began... because he did wear number 81 in Super Bowl 36. I think that he switched for the 2001 campaign after Oz had departed.
So what's your final answer, Randall?
2000. What year did he switch to number 81? 2001.
And in question 4, in the summer of 94, which restricted free agent were the Blues caught tampering with, costing them cash compensation and a future first-round pick?
That was a redux of Scott Stevens. They actually, it was like 10 years later. We talk kerfuffle. This had ballooned into much more than a.
It was
kerfuffle.
incredible. It went nuts. The league went nuts.
Yeah, they did. It was so on the same 4th of July. What a great press conference with Scott Stevens and Al McInnes. They traded Phil Housley to Calgary for Al McInnes and tried to re-sign Scott Stevens, and Jersey matched the offer. But can you imagine? They would have had both McInnes and Stevens on the same blue line.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
Probably never would have gotten Chris Pronger.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think you go after him. But you did have Iron Mike going nuts.
Right.
So you never know.
Yeah.
Meat is on the burner.
Yeah. So that was Scott Stevens that day, and then Jersey wound up matching the offer.
Matthew, do your thing, please.
I swear you could do maybe not in full novel, but you could do a novella just on the Blues. Just on the Blues RFAs in the 1990s. Just take that 10-year gap and talk about the Blues moves through just offer sheets, and you could literally write a 200, 300-page book on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating case. It's unbelievable. But we do have a winner in today's fight. Tom taking on Randy Carricker for what I believe he said was the 3rd time. He's 0-2 coming into today. So does he walk away with a win today, or does Randy Carricker stop Tom again? He's an old timer, Randy. I can't believe you would do that to him.
I'm an old timer too.
He said he's older. Ring that bell.
The winner and new champion of the fight, Average Joe Listener.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Congratulations, Tom. You took down Randy Carricker by a score of 3-2 in today's fight. Congratulations, sir.
Holy cow, I don't believe it.
There you go, Tom.
Feel good about it, Tom. Let's go through those questions and those answers and see what you got it. Which NFL franchise has played the most playoff games in franchise history with 67? The Cowboys sit still, despite the current drought, still sit tops at 67. The Steelers at 64, the Packers at 63, and the 49ers at 62. The Patriots are at 59, by the way, just behind those top four teams. Only pair of teammates to hit both 50 home runs in the same seasons were two Yankees, and Randy got it correct, Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. He's going to join us at 9:15. Torry Holt originally wore 88 for the Rams, but which season did he switch to his more iconic 81 jersey? I asked this question because, Randy, I thought it was 01, but then I double-checked it, and I pictures from Super Bowl 36. He's still in the 88 jersey facing off against the Patriots, which shocks me that he played two Super Bowls in 88 and yet is more well-known for being number 81, which is kind of wild to me. So that actually happened in 2002, not 2001. And then in the summer of 1994, again, they tried to go round the bend with Mr. Scott Stevens a second time, and it cost them $1 million in fine that went to the Devils and a future first-round pick because they tried to go after Mr. Scott Stevens again in 94, and it did not go well for them. So Randy Carragher, or Tom, excuse me, gets a 3-2 win in the fight today. Tom, congratulations, and we'll talk to you tomorrow in round 2.
All right, thank you, guys.
Good job, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
He's shocked.
He was.
He
He is
good.
He faced you 2 times before, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. I think he said that it was tied on how he performed against you prior. So, it was a battle.
Beautiful. Coming up next on 101 ESPN, Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway are now members of the St. Louis Blues. So how do they fit in? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey, Danny Mac for Stewart's American Mortgage on this Tuesday morning. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refi, if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things, hey, let's make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. He's going to help you out every step of the way. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, he's going to get you to the closing table fast. Try 10 days, and he'll get you the best interest rate possible. And he also has the bagel loan. That can help you out, too. So what is the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing costs. Stewart is your guy. He makes it so easy for you. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends, give Stewart a call. Here is his direct personal cell phone. You can call him. You can text him, 314-324-4440. Again, that number, 314-324-4440. Or you can Google the Bagel Loan.
NMLS number 226715.
officially members of your St. Louis Blues. The Blues, for signing those two players to offer sheets, will send a second rounder for Broberg and a third rounder for Holloway to the Edmonton Oilers. The Blues and the Oilers, in a separate transaction, have made another deal. The Blues will send their 2028 third-round pick to the Oilers and unsigned 2023 fifth-rounder Paul Fisher for future considerations. So the big news of the day is that the Blues have acquired Broberg and Holloway from the Edmonton Oilers. Broberg, a big, lanky defenseman. I mentioned to you guys during the break, Jay Bouwmeester, 6'4", 206. Broberg is 6'4", 212. So the long arms, the long stick, and hopefully
this guy can skate too.
He can skate as Bo could. So hopefully you get that sort of a guy, maybe a little bit better offensively. Although before Bouwmeester got here, he was a better offensive player. He was counted on for defense here as a member of the Blues. But hopefully the Blues can have a good, solid, young, ascending defenseman, because their group had gotten pretty old. Everybody's over 30, except for Perunovic and Kessel. But when you look at the key guys last year, Krug over 30, Falk over 30, Parayko over 30, Leddy over 30. So the Blues infused some much-needed youth into their defense as well.
Wow, I am just completely shocked that they were able to pull this off, because as you mentioned, there was a lot of moves that the Oilers were making prior to this where you were saying, okay, maybe they would be able to free up some cap space to be able to keep at least one of these guys. But the fact that it pans out where the Blues do get both of them, now I do understand a lot of fans who look at this might say this is a little bit of an overpay for these young players who are not fully proven just yet, because it'll be $4.5 million for Broberg, and that is a pretty steep price, especially when Andy Strickland revealed how much they offered him in the first place, which I believe it was 2 years, $1.1 million is what Andy Strickland was saying when we had him on earlier. But at the same time, your team is getting younger. Broberg is just 23 years old. I believe that Holloway is just 22 years old. And Doug Armstrong is staying true to his word of acquiring that young talent. And you have Robert Thomas now at 25 years old. Jordan Kyrou, I believe he is 25, 26. And so they're getting closer and closer into those prime years while you're ushering in this new younger talent coming in. That feels like a great combination for this team right now.
And it probably is an overpay, to your point. But if you're going to pluck players from an organization, you're going to have to overpay anyway. So you just do it. You get younger. Let me throw some lines at you right now.
Okay.
Neighbors, Thomas, Kyrou. Just doing some writing down here in the break. Neighbors, Thomas, Kyrou on my top line. Bolduc, Buchnevich, Holloway on the second. I like Saad, Faksa, Shen in my third line, and then Torbchenko, Texier, Joseph on the fourth line. And I mentioned the defensive pairings. You go Broberg, Parayko, Leddy, Falk, Suter, and Kessel. Not bad. I mean, there's a lot of mixture of some old in there, but yet you get the youth that you're trying to do during this retool, and I think it's a great move. It's one that it's kind of a steal here for Doug Armstrong.
Well, one of the things that the Blues have established, maybe they even have too much depth. They have a tremendous amount of depth, but they have more players under one-way contracts than they're allowed to have on the roster. So something's got to give there, but you can never have too many good young players. And when we talk about the overpay, if Doug Armstrong, and granted, he has overpaid for some guys. I think we can all agree that they overpaid for Torrey Krug under the circumstances, right? There have been some other situations. But of the vast majority of the time, I trust Doug Armstrong to be able to evaluate talent and get it under contract at a price that is commensurate with what the production will be. For the most part in his career, the Blues have done a really good job of not having to overpay players.
And he's really setting things up for Alexander Steen to take over it. Remember, Alexander Steen will be taking over here soon, and Doug Armstrong is making sure that he's leaving it in a better place than what it has been. And so I think that it's great that you bring in a lot of these young players. I'm just very curious about what you guys think. Do you think this will really open up the floodgates for more offer sheets? Because I hope so. I mean, the dramatics following this over the last few days has really been enthralling, honestly.
Yeah, wait till Edmonton can go get Jake Neighbors.
Yeah,
in a couple of years. That.
Yeah, that's something that I always think about when I see these offer sheets. Is how is that organization kind of going to get you back? Yeah. And that's something to think about moving forward.
But they're paying the price now for paying those exorbitant sums for their top two guys.
Yep.
And they've got Zach Hyman at a bargain deal, but McDavid and Draisaitl making the huge money. One of the things that I thought was the genius of Doug Armstrong in building the Blues Stanley Cup team was that your highest paid players were making $7.5 million. You have players around the league making $9, $10, $11 million. The Blues have much more ability to spread the money out, and their contracts are still structured that way, with Thomas and Kyrou being the highest paid guys, so that there's money to spend on a guy like a Broberg or a Holloway.
I think that's a really great point to make there, is that they have the cap space to be able to do this, and this was one of the ways that they were able to utilize that with offer sheets. And so I like that they were aggressive. I like that Army went out and did this, and I think it definitely shocked the NHL world today that they were able to pull it off. But honestly, in the Oilers in the position, they put themselves in that position. They really were tight, and they have to think about the future of Draisaitl and that contract and what that will look like moving forward. So it was a very aggressive move and assessment by Armstrong.
You put yourself in that position, but if you said you're going to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and have a chance to win, you do it, in my opinion. But they're going to have to pay their two big guys moving forward, which could hamstring them just a little bit in terms of the cap. But when the Blues get a 22-year-old forward and a 23-year-old defenseman, looks like a pretty good deal for the Blues, especially when one was a top pick. And the defenseman, I can't wait to watch him play.
Yes.
He can flat-out skate. I keep saying that. You put him on the ice with Parayko, if that's the pairing. That's going to be fun to watch. And I think fans are excited. You wake up this morning, you hear this news. It's a little jolt to the organization and the fan base, and that's always a good thing, too.
By the way, Broberg is from Sweden. The Blues have 9 of their prospects from Sweden. They've got their GM in waiting.
Yes, I was going to say, Steen has to be just ecstatic this morning because they're slowly turning into Team Sweden over there.
Don't you kind of feel like, though, that he probably had something to do with this deal, too?
100%.
Yep.
Watching these players, watching him specifically, yeah, I definitely do.
So the Blues have those guys, and they're off and running with restricted free agency. Brooke, I think you're right. I think that the value, if you see value in players, the thing is, though, as Army mentioned early in the summer, if they see a team in a pinch from a salary cap standpoint, you got to jump on it. If a team has a bunch of cap room, it doesn't help you. But I would think that the sharp GMs now will be looking for a team in a financial pinch like Edmonton was and jump all over restricted guys.
We always talk about the offseason being possibly not that exciting or at times stale and boring. It has its hot periods.
Especially August.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's typically pretty boring. But if you have this going on in the NHL, everybody's talking about it. I think that it would be a lot more exciting to see it. And hopefully both these players, while some might say it's an overpay, they will turn into what the Blues envision them to be. I'm
curious what fans are thinking this morning.
I think they're excited, at least for everything. Now, Oilers fans, you said just fans. Ooh. Now, Oilers fans, they have to be so angry. I'm going to have to look at social media to see what they're saying.
Now they say the two guys suck.
Oh,
right.
Of course.
They weren't part of the future. They weren't panning out, so they're on to St. Louis. But that's not the case. If you're a fan this morning, I think it gives you optimism. And think about how he's changed this roster in a short amount of time to get younger during a retool. That is not easy to do.
Pretty impressive. Coming up, we've got the Rush Hour Reset, and we will take at 9:30 some of your mic drops with the 101 ESPN app. What do you think of Doug Armstrong's Blues for getting Broberg and Holloway and Alexander Steens, by the way? We'll take your mic drops and texts coming up at 9:30. We've got the Rush Hour Reset coming up, and then future Pro Football Hall of Famer Torry Holt is also coming your way at 9:15 here on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Brooke Grimsley here for your Redbird Report. The Cardinals will host the division-leading Brewers for a 3-game series starting tonight. The Cardinals have lost 6 of their last 7 games and trail Milwaukee by 11 games. Eric Fedde will get the start for the Cardinals as he has a 5-point lead over his last 3 starts. Frankie Montas will be on the mound for Milwaukee. He has a 3.86 ERA over his last 3 starts since being traded to the Brewers. First pitch tonight will be at 6:45.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hey, guys, if you need to perk up a little bit, maybe you don't feel like you have the same sort of physical stamina to get through a day that you used to have. Maybe you aren't able to go for that run like you used to or get through that workout like you used to. It's a problem that could be with low T, and it's a problem that can be solved at Mentality at lowtusa.com. At Mentality, they understand that this is going to happen to men, and they have great doctors and nurses that are going to check your testosterone level, and then they have an FDA-approved testosterone supplemental treatment that will get your testosterone level back to normal. Now, your primary doctor might say your testosterone level is fine. It's within the normal range, but the normal range for testosterone, guys, is pretty wide, and what they want to do at Mentality is get it back to the upper range of normal so that you do have that energy that you had in your younger days. And they're going to work with your insurance company to make sure your out-of-pocket expenses are as low as possible. It's a great local company. It's called Mentality. You can learn what they do at lowtusa.com. Set up an appointment at one of their clinics in either Chesterfield or South County today and join thousands of St. Louis guys who are getting their energy back, getting their life back at Mentality at lowtusa.com.
Recapping the biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
9:08 in St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Rush Hour Reset. If you have not heard yet, the Blues have acquired defenseman Philip Broberg and forward Dylan Holloway from the Edmonton Oilers. The Blues signed those players to offer sheets. They have signed contracts with the Blues, and the Blues will send a second rounder for Broberg, a third rounder for Holloway to Edmonton. They're also going to send a 2028 third-round pick to Edmonton, along with a player that they had drafted last year in exchange for future consideration. So a big expanded trade between the Blues and the Oilers. But the big news of the day, Broberg and Holloway are now members of the St. Louis Blues, and Doug Armstrong is going to hold a press conference. We'll probably carry it live at 2 o'clock right at the beginning of the Fast Lane to talk about this.
Love this move by Doug Armstrong. Very aggressive moves by him this offseason where he was able to get creative. I didn't know exactly what to expect this offseason, but I think a lot of moves that help them going into this season, but also in the future, too, and what they're able to do. From the 618, this fan loves it. Army is a genius. Loves seeing a GM that takes risks by trying to win a championship instead of a GM who just plays it safe for a 500 season. Obviously tying in Cardinals there, but just focusing on the Blues side of things here. Oh, sorry, did that sting a little bit?
Ow.
Yeah, but just setting that aside, looking at what the Blues and what they're doing, I think a lot of fans appreciate the moves and how creative Army got here.
Holloway or Broberg? Who are you more interested in watching?
Broberg.
Me too. I cannot wait to watch him. Think about the retool here and getting players that are 24 or under and players that aren't even here yet that are on the move at some point this year. They're going to have some decisions to make. There's a lot of guys, as you mentioned, Randy, on one-way deals, so they're going to have to clear up some space. But it's exciting. If you're a Blues fan, it's a different roster than you saw a year ago. And a lot of times, you talk about a retool in any sport, you don't see a lot of player movement. You stick with the core of what they have and, see if they get better year from year. But this is exciting. If you're a Blues fan, man, to get some new faces in here and guys that can probably instantly help this team.
Yeah, and nobody's better at maintaining or developing a new core than Doug Armstrong is. More on the Blues coming up at 9:30. Couple of other notes, Cards and Brewers tonight at the ballpark. 6:45 start with school back in session. Eric Fedde going for the Cardinals. Frankie Montas for Milwaukee. And last night was a bad night for the Cardinals. Not that it really matters in the big picture because they aren't likely to make the playoffs. But the Diamondbacks won. Cardinals are in competition with them. Reds won. Cards are in competition with them. Mets won. Cards are in competition with them. Also, last night, the Padres won. Cardinals ostensibly in competition with them. And the Giants won. The only team that the Cardinals are kind of in competition with that didn't win is the Pittsburgh Pirates. So right now, when you look at the wild card standings, because let's be realistic, the Cardinals trail in the National League by 11 games in the Central Division, but the wild card is kind of getting away from the Cardinals. 5 games out of a wild card spot, and the teams between the Cardinals and a wild card are Atlanta, and they lost Austin Riley. The Braves are in trouble with both Acuna and Riley out, in addition to Spencer Strider and Max Fried. They've got problems.
Riley was a broken hand, done for the year, so that's a huge loss in the middle of that lineup.
Yep. But you've got the Mets game and a half behind the Braves at the moment. The Giants are 3.5 and surging. The Giants are have won 2 in a row and are playing well. And then the Reds, with their win, get to within 5.5 of the Cardinals. The Cubs are 5.5 back, and then the Pirates are 58 and 66, but have young ascending talent. So things just don't look good for the Cardinals' playoff chances right now. And that's why I think if you want to excite me for the rest of this season, I want to see the kids. I want to see things getting better for 2025. If you want to excite me, don't dream about a playoff spot, because it's a pipe dream. Show me the kids and show me what I can get excited about for next year.
The division is, that is far away. Wild card is far out of the way too. So the Cardinals have lost 6 of the last 7. I'm with you guys. Just let the younger players play, especially Jordan Walker at this point.
Yep. So when is that time? How far do you have to be out of it? Or do you think it's right now?
Tonight?
I give it this series maybe another week, and going into September having an honest evaluation of where my club is, and then at that point play more of the younger players.
That is today's Rush Hour Reset. Coming up, Torry Holt, future Hall of Famer, St. Louis Ram Super Bowl champ, next on 101 ESPN.
3rd and goal. 3 receivers to the right. Warner goes over the middle. Juggled, caught. Holt, touchdown. And the Rams go into their bob and weave.
That's a touchdown in Super Bowl 34 by our next guest, Torry Holt. Brooke Grimsley is here. Dan McLaughlin is here. I'm Randy Carricker. Great to have you with us on 101 ESPN. And the Super Bowl champ and future Hall of Famer is working with Abbott, the official health sciences and nutrition partner of Real Madrid. And they hosted a soccer clinic on August 1st for pro athletes and influencers. And Torry Holt is involved with them. And first of all, Torry, always good to have you with us. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Randy. It's always good to hear your voice, man. It's good to talk to you. Hello, St. Louis. How's everybody?
We're doing great. We're doing fantastic. So I got to know what you did with Abbott Labs, because I know that you've always been interested in keeping your body in great shape and health sciences. So what are you doing with Abbott?
So we were out in New York City, man, and earlier this month, and had a really good time with Abbott and Real Madrid. I recently came out of retirement for one day, signed a one-day contract with Real Madrid. Randy, they had a press conference for us. We had the jerseys, signed contract. I mean, it felt like 1999 all over again for me, but it was really fun. So came out of retirement, put my muscles to the test with Abbott and the Real Madrid. We trained with Real Madrid coaches and tried a bunch of great challenges while on the pitch. So it was a really good time. And fortunately, my wife played soccer at university. My daughters played soccer, so they got me all ready and trained up for the actual challenge and for the game. So it was a really good time. And then got an opportunity to meet the folks at Ensure, as well as Pedialyte, as well as we mentioned Abbott, and drank a lot of Ensure Max Protein while out on the pitch, man, to make sure that I was hydrated and had everything that I needed to go out and compete and have a good time.
T, we've got an MLS team here now. Are you up for it?
No, I'm not. but thank you, though.
You got it, brother.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Torry. I also want to ask you about the Cardinals announcing that they are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the greatest show on turf with a special theme night on September 21st, and you'll be in town for that, right?
Yeah, you know what? I want to say, man, big thanks to the St. Louis Cardinals. We all know that they are staples there in the city of St. Louis, and for them to acknowledge our football team, that Super Bowl 34 team, it's just, I can't thank them enough. Every chance I get on socials and anytime I run across folks there in St. Louis with the Cardinals, I thank them as much as I possibly can, because it gives us an opportunity to come back to a city that we love and that we work so hard for to bring a championship to, and then it allows the city to see us again and just have a good time. So I'm super excited about coming back to St. Louis. Again, thanks to the St. Louis Cardinals. Thanks to all of the St. Louis Rams fans that still there in the city that pull for that team and still continues to pull for us individually. So, yes, looking forward to coming back to the Lou and hanging out with the fans that treated us so well and respected everything that we did there on the football field.
Torry, I got a two-parter. Do you come back to St. Louis very often for charitable events or just things, maybe mingling with friends from back in the day? And then secondly, what keeps you busy these days?
Yeah, I've come back to St. Louis quite a few times. You know, Isaac still has his events, and his foundation does things often there in the community. Our foundation, Hope Brothers Foundation, which supports young kids with a parent or a caregiver that has a cancer diagnosis there at the Sitemans Cancer Center there in St. Charles. We still have a relationship with those folks there and continue to try to help families that are dealing with a cancer diagnosis. So I'm back in the city as often as I possibly can. And nowadays, what keeps me busy, my brother and I are business partners. My brother Terrence Holt, he played with the Detroit Lions, drafted by the Detroit Lions, played with the Arizona Cardinals, played 7 years in the National Football League. He and I are business partners. We have our own business. We have a construction company. And we also have our foundation that I mentioned, Hope Brothers Foundation, supporting young kids with a parent or caregiver with a cancer diagnosis. So that keeps us busy. And then my kids are off in the university So I get a chance, my wife and I get a chance to go see our daughter, Brooklyn, play soccer games on Thursdays and Sundays, whether it's here in Raleigh or out of town. So that's been great. I've done some radio with Sirius XM. I also am a coordinator for the NFL Legends community, which provides educational support for our former players that played in the National Football League, keeping them abreast and in tune with their former teams, and helping them throughout their transition from the National Football League. So I say all that to say I have a full life, but it's all things that I enjoy doing. I'm thankful to be able to continue to get up and walk and have my health and have my limbs to be able to move around.
Hey, Torry, when I, and you know this, I tried to get to know guys in the room, and I found you in your rookie year to be a really mature young man then. You had a good head on your shoulders, and you did ever since. For almost every player, a rookie year is a whirlwind. But because of who you are as a person, did you appreciate that rookie year, winning the championship, as much as maybe some other rookies? Because it doesn't seem like the NFL was overwhelming for you right off the bat.
Yes, Randy, I did. I enjoyed every moment of my rookie season. And you mentioned having a level of maturity. Well, I went to Hargrave Military Academy prior to going off to university, so I actually had an extra year of high school, but I was able to go there and learn discipline, self-control, respecting my elders, respecting my team. Because if anyone has been in the military, you know what that daily regimen is like, and it can be challenging. It could challenge you mentally as well as physically, and I was able to get some of those tools by going to military academy, which helped me throughout college, which helped me throughout my rookie and my pro career. But I enjoyed every moment of it, man. My thing was, okay, Torry, you were drafted 6th overall, so there's some high expectations for you. How are you going to handle it? And I just went back. I just leaned on how I was raised. Hardworking, go out, keep my mouth closed, work hard, respect others, know my job, understand my job and my assignment, and go out and do it at the highest of level. And then not only that, as a young guy, as a rookie, I had so much energy. So that energy had to go somewhere. So I didn't mind singing. I didn't mind going into the weight room early and staying later. I didn't mind doing extra catches and doing extra things after practice. My thing was I got to do whatever I can to keep my team elevated and keep their spirits high. But not only that, go out and do my part, play my role, do it at a very high level. And I was able to do that my rookie season, and which led us into the playoffs, which led us into the Super Bowl, and we eventually ended up winning it. But yes, I remember everything, and I was in the moment, Randy. I have to say, I was actually present and in the moment every step of the way in my rookie season.
Yeah, I wonder how many guys on your team, even the veteran guys, had such an appreciation for Muhammad Ali that they could have come up with a bob and weave like that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and I love Muhammad. I love Muhammad Ali. And the guy, I can't think of his name, but he used to be there training with DeMarco Farr in the defensive linemen, helping them with their hand placement and their speed and everything. I can't think of his name. Well, anyway, he was a big Muhammad Ali fan as well, and he provided me some tapes of Muhammad Ali. So after training camp practices, when training camp broke and we came home, after practice, I would come home and pop into Muhammad Ali tapes, and I would just watch Muhammad Ali go through his training and how he would spar. And I just saw a guy who was just gracefully just bobbing and weaving, just dodging punches. And I'm like, man, I can do that. And then it went from watching him to also looking at some of the guys in the hip hop space, like Busta Rhymes and the Lost Boys, watching some of those guys. And I'm out on the football field, and I'm like, okay, Atlanta had the Dirty Bird. This team has that. What can the Rams have? And then the bob and weave was born, and it started in practice. And then I got a couple of the veterans like Roland Williams and some other guys looking and buying into it. And they was like, okay, yeah, we can take this to the practice field. Yeah, we're doing it. But what if we score, we need to take it to the game field. And that's what happened. So that's how the bob and weave was born. I got the veterans to see it, and they liked it. And then we took it to the field, and the fans enjoyed it, and it was all into it. And then the rest was history.
I love that story so much. Torry, if you could go back in time, is there a game that you would like to go back and replay, whether it was just a magical game for you that you want to relive, or maybe a game that you wish you could even redo?
Yes, well, I would love if I could bring back the Super Bowl win. If I could relive that moment again, I certainly would do that anytime. And then the one that if you played in Super Bowls and you lost the Super Bowl, it never leaves your mind. It never leaves your mind. And losing that Super Bowl 36, never leaves my mind. If I had some things that I could go back and change in that game, I certainly would. But winning that Super Bowl, man, if I could relive that with my teammates every single year, man, I would do it at a drop of a dime. That was an incredible run by our football team as well as our coaches. The things that Coach McNeal said to us and he poured into us throughout that season, started from training camp throughout the whole year, it played out. It came to fruition. And that was one of the most exciting times of my life, winning that Super Bowl. But again, losing that one, God, it still eats at me to this day. And I have a few things in there that I would change, but it is what it is.
Hey, Torry, you're going to go to the Hall of Fame, and we make your case for the Hall of Fame here every year. More catches for more yards than anybody else between 2000 and 2009. What was your favorite catch in the NFL?
Oh, my favorite catch in the NFL? Let's go back to the Super Bowl, my rookie season. Prior to that game, I had a separated AC joint, so I couldn't move that shoulder. I had a bruise long in that game. I was beat up coming into that Super Bowl match. But we were down in the red zone, and the Titans decided that they wanted to bring pressure, which they often showed throughout the course of the season. And they wanted to bring pressure off of my side, which is, I played the X, and they wanted to bring weak side pressure. And the safety went, and I was able to get open, cross the corner space, and Kurt threw that slant to me, and I was able to catch it and put it right there on my face mask, again, because I couldn't lift my shoulders because of the damage that had happened the previous game. And I was able to hang on to it and score that touchdown. That, to me, was probably one of my most favorite catches of all time, scoring that touchdown in Super Bowl 34.
Okay, I can still see in my mind's eye that 67-yard bobbling touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, that was crazy too, Randy. That was crazy too. And you know what's so funny about that play? Because now that you say it, I remember, coming off the line of scrimmage, beating the corner, then beating the safety, and then I seen the ball in the air, and then it was quiet in the stadium. The stadium was it felt quiet. It felt like the stadium was absolutely quiet. And then here comes the ball. And I'm like, okay, he's here, I'm here. I have to come down with this ball. The ball gets tipped. I'm thinking, well, I'm going forward, but the ball is back here. So I just reached back and just grabbed the ball. So that was just the football gods on my side that particular day. And I brought it in and ran it in for a touchdown. And then all of a sudden, it just got loud. All of a sudden, the crowd just erupted. And I was like, this is unfreaking believable, man. It was to your point, it was one of the more magical catches that I ever had in my career.
Is there a wide receiver that you like watching in the NFL right now?
I do. I like watching all of them. I'm just a fan of the sport. Certainly a fan of the position. But Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
You liked Cooper Kupp when he was in college.
I like Cooper Kupp when he was in college. I like Cooper Kupp now. And Cooper's not the fastest of guys, but he's crafty. He has nice size, great awareness, good ball, good hand-eye coordination. Does a good job of getting open. I like watching quite a bit of all of the wide receivers in the National Football League. I think they all bring something different to the position. And they're very unique and very skillful.
All right. Hey, before we let you go, Abbott Ensure Max Protein. I know that's one of your go-to drinks. Why?
Well, it has 30 grams of protein. So I like taking it pre and post-workout. It just keeps me, gives my body all the nutrients and all the vitamins that I need in order to get through and through a workout and to finish a workout. And then you can find it. You can find Ensure Max Protein at your local grocery store. So if you're looking to get the protein that you need for your body to stay in great shape, Ensure Max Protein is what you need. And if you're also looking to find out what the event was that we did in New York earlier this month with Abbott and the Real Madrid, taking us through drills and having a game there on the pitch, you can go to my Instagram, and on my Instagram Reels, you'll see a reel of the event there in New York City. It was a great time.
Torry, it's great to hear your voice. Can't wait to see you on the 21st here in St. Louis. Congratulations on your work with Abbott and everything, all the success that you're enjoying. I'm not surprised by it, but congratulations nonetheless.
Thank you very much, Randy. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Brooke. You guys have a great day, and thank you, St. Louis. I can't wait to see you guys. Love you, miss you.
All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Torry. Torry Holt with us on 101 ESPN.
Oh, what a great interview, and excited to have him back. The Cardinals doing a wonderful job of bringing those guys back in to celebrate them.
Yeah.
Randy, you were saying how many guys now are in the media from the greatest show on turf?
I was just thinking about some of the people that aren't coming in. Kurt has his work with NFL Network. Orlando is going to have his son playing college football at Ohio State. You've got London doing he's the Commanders analyst. Kevin Carter is on CBS. DeMarco's doing the Rams. Ray Agnew is in the Lions front office. Grant Wistrom is working for the University of Nebraska. Keith Lyle is doing radio somewhere. I don't know if Keith is coming in or not. You've got Marshall is coming in. For whatever reason, Coach Vermeil's not going to be here. But, man, that was such a prolifically successful group of people, and that's because of Dick Vermeil.
I could listen to those stories all day long, man. That was great with Torry Holt. Outstanding.
And each week during the season, we're going to take a look back. I'm going to interview Trent Green today, as a matter of fact. I already talked to Charlie Army, and so each week during the season, we're going to do a look back at the 25-year anniversary of the greatest show on turf.
I love that. And they'll be in town September 21st to be celebrated.
September 21st, and you can get tickets at, let me get my email up here. It's at cardinals.com/football, I believe. And it's just going to be a fantastic event. There's going to be a meet and greet with Torry, a meet and greet with Marshall, meet and greet with Isaac, and just all kinds of opportunities to celebrate. Man, 25 years. And we're getting to that point now where if you're driving around and you're 30 now, you don't remember the greatest show on turf. Check it out on YouTube, though, because it is the greatest offense to ever play.
618, it is truly amazing how many great people were on that team. Not just great players, but great and truly nice, giving people. Did you know that, Randy, when they were playing? I know you were there every day. You were out at Rams Park. You were covering the games. Did you have a feel that these guys would be doing what they're doing now?
So when DV was hired in January of 1997, one of the questions I asked, he had a 35-minute speech before he took questions at his press conference. And I said, how important is character going to be in your organization? Because they had Lawrence Phillips on their roster. He said, it's going to be the most important thing that we do. First two free agency signs are Ricky Prohl, great guy. Mike Jones, great guy.
Yep.
And then the big money guy, Trent Green, great guy. Timmerman, great guy. Drafts Orlando, great guy. So, yeah, that was just a terrific, if we were a radio station, and we do, our leadership, John Kioski, collects great people. That's what DV did. DV collected great people, and they were so great to deal with on a daily basis. That was a lot of fun. I asked Bernie last week and Brian Stahl and Coos. We were all together at an event. I said, was that the most fun you've ever had covering anything in sports? And they all said, yeah, it was the most fun year that they've ever had covering anything in sports. That greatest show, the 1999 Rams.
Wow.
Pretty awesome.
Such a great interview, too.
Yeah,
I'm so glad that you got him on.
Are we running Trent this week?
Trent is, actually, that season started on September 12th. So I think we're going to, September 6th, Labor Day week will be Trent. I think the week before that will be Charlie. We'll have DeMarco for opening day. We're going to talk to Todd Light. We're going to talk, as the season unfolds, to Kurt Warner, and hopefully we'll get Marshall, and Isaac will definitely be part of it. Isaac, I want to get him for the week of the San Francisco game. We're going to do it week by week. And so Isaac's 4-touchdown game against San Francisco, we'll get him that week.
Love it. Good
Such
stuff.
a great group of guys. Sorry, just one more thing.
Yeah.
The story that always sticks with me that you always tell about Kurt Warner, when you're talking about a great group of great group of guys, that are waiting for interviews, had a great relationship with the media, where you talked about how Kurt waited for that interview with you.
At the Super Bowl, yeah. Day before Super Bowl 36, we had done, well, I'll go back. At this time of year, during training camp, I had gone to KTRS. I was at 550, and we got in the Rams' rights, a portion of the rights. And I went to Kurt during training camp, and I said, hey, do you mind getting together with me on Fridays before every game? And we'll record a 5-minute interview for the pregame show. He said, yeah, no problem at all. This is like during training camp. And we get to the opening game in September, and I'm going to grab him after he gets dressed and does his press availability. We're all standing around doing a scrum with Coach Martz, and Kurt is kind of standing off in the background. And I turned around, and he just waved me. He said, "You want to do this now?" He remembered it like 3 weeks later. And I said, "Yeah, sure." So we did it every week. We get to the Super Bowl. We're in New Orleans. And the Rams PR people have two offices, an upper and a lower level. They had to go down the steps. I'm in the upper level where all the players hung out. And I'm supposed to meet Kurt. This is the day that the Patriots taped the practice, the walkthrough. And I'm supposed to meet Kurt, I think, at like 1 o'clock. And I figure practice is going long. I don't see anybody. And so finally, at about 1:30, the Rams PR guy, Rick Smith, comes and says, "Hey, you waiting for Kurt?" I said, "Yeah. He's been waiting downstairs for you for a half hour." So I go downstairs. The day before the Super Bowl, the MVP of the league, and he's heading, the quarterback who's going to play in the Super Bowl the next day, has been waiting for a half hour to do a 5-minute interview with just some schlub from St. Louis.
Wow.
That's how great Kurt is. He's just an absolute prince. And that team was full of them, full of princes, just great people.
I would have left.
He would have anybody else. Anybody else in the world would have walked. It was unbelievable.
It is. It's great.
He's great. Coming up, we're going to get some of your reaction to the Blues' official now acquisitions of Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway next on 101 ESPN. Hey, my friends at Together Credit Union have so many great things happening, and you need to get to Together Credit Union, because if your home needs repairs, maybe an update or a remodel, and you don't want to pile on debt, Together Credit Union has their interest-only home equity line of credit. And with Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit, you can borrow up to 90% of the current equity in your home and pay interest-only monthly payments for the first 10 years. There are no annual fees, no prepayment penalties. It's a really cool deal. Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit offers flexible borrowing, and that means you can borrow as much as or as little as you need to make your house a home. And you can pay your balance at any time during the draw period and then borrow it again, and that puts you in control of your finances. To learn more about Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit, stop by a branch or visit togethercu.org. The interest-only home equity line of credit brought to you by Together Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues have added 2 new players as Broberg and Holloway are both joining from the Edmonton Oilers on RFA offer sheets. They also completed another trade just as that was finalized, as the Blues will receive future considerations from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for Paul Fisher, an unsigned 5th-round draft pick from this previous year, and another 3rd-round draft pick, this one slotted for 2028. Cardinals are also back in action today, starting a 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. Frankie Montas faces off against Eric Fedde. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
The Fast Lane has your shot to score a pair of tickets to the Blues home opener against the Minnesota Wild on October 15th at Enterprise Center. Your first chance to see Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway in Blues sweaters. Blues hockey right around the corner, and single game tickets for the 24-25 season go on sale this Thursday at 10 a.m. Don't miss exciting new theme nights and can't miss giveaways this season. Get all the details at stlouisblues.com. Text in right now to 31439. Oh, no, that's for the Fast Lane guys. That's you can't text in now to win tickets from us because they've got the tickets. But you can just check it out. Just listen to the Fast Lane.
Aww.
And those guys will give you tickets.
I love giving away tickets, though.
We do.
I love doing that.
We'll give away some tickets as we go along here.
Isn't there a concert or something we're giving away tickets to?
I hope so. I don't know. I'm not paying that close of attention.
Maybe we'll find out in rock and roll.
Okay. Yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
We'll see. Matthew doesn't know. So Philip Broberg is here. Letty and Parayko played well together last year. But the Blues, it seems like, since the departure of Jay Bouwmeester, have been looking for the ideal Colton Parayko partner. Seems like Broberg, at least from a physical game style skill set, Broberg is a good fit to play with Colton Parayko. Do you guys agree with me on that?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially the way that they skate, 100%. By the way, the ages in the Blues system, Kyrou 26, Perunovic 26, Thomas, Joseph, Torbchenko 25, and the rest are under that. Hofer, Texier, Kessel, 24. Broberg is only 23. Neighbors, 22. Holloway's 22. Bolduc, 21. Dean, 21. Pretty good nucleus moving forward with some young players.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you've got Buchnevich in his prime. Schenner is probably a little bit past his prime now. Parayko is in his prime. You've got a small group of players that are playing, and the big one is Jordan Binnington, that are playing in their prime years.
And you have some other veteran players. They have Suter coming in, so it'll be really interesting to see what this all looks like. You know, Andy mentioned this earlier, but wow, there's a lot of storylines to follow going into training camp here soon.
Dan, best Suter ever to play in St. Louis?
That would be Bruce.
I'd go with that, too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah, Bruce.
Good name, though. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Good last name.
Let's get a mic drop from Clay here on 101 ESPN.
It's a huge jolt to this roster, and just how many young guys now they have on this roster. Not only young guys, but young guys that are first-round picks. So there's talent there. I think the Blues have a direction. I think they have a chance to maybe sniff the playoffs this year. And kind of get those guys the taste they need. But it's exciting times to be a Blues fan. Broberg and Holloway are going to be huge additions to this group, and I'm excited for the season to start. We're just a couple months away.
Thank you, Clay. I'll tell you this, and he made a point that I have thought of. If you are a top 10 pick in the NHL, or any league really, you have physical skills. Everybody's smart enough to recognize physical skills. It's the other aspects of the game, the innate ability, the desire that make you great. But one thing we do know about Broberg and Holloway is that they do have physical skills.
I'm so excited to see both of them. And he also brought up another point, is the expectation now that the offseason is pretty much done, obviously sealed as you're getting ready for the season to start here soon for the Blues, is the expectation playoffs now that you know what this group essentially looks like going in?
I would say, at least as a fan, you go in with the idea that you're in better shape than you were at the end of last season, and you were pretty darn close to getting to the playoffs last year. You weren't eliminated till, the final week of the season. So, yeah, I think expectations would be with this group, seeing how they come together. But why not make the playoffs this year? You've changed the roster a pretty good amount. There's no reason to say that it won't happen. But the other thing I love is that the experience. These guys are going to play in the experience a year from now, 2 years from now, and the difference that can make with this organization.
Let's hear from Grant next year on 101 ESPN.
What I have looked into and have observed over these last few years is that Army does what he can to rebuild or continue to build a team to push toward a winning product. And that is what fans want to see here in St. Louis. I think he and Steiner together over these next few years during this transition period will continue to strive this way. I think Army has the drive to, like you said earlier, Brooke, leave the Blues better than when he found them. And Steen is going to pick up on that and carry the ball for years to come.
I love what he said there. I mean, he's 100% right. This is really making sure that things are set up well for Steen. And Dan, you touched on this earlier. I think Steen also was very much involved with this because you have another Swede coming back into the fold. So he's been able to watch these guys for a while he's been a part of the Blues organization behind the scenes. And now he's stepping into the forefront, will be taking things over here moving forward. So I don't know, as a Blues fan, how you do not love this move. I know there's been some people who say, wow, Broberg is pretty expensive, $4.5 million for him, and we know that the Oilers were possibly just looking at 2 years, $1.1 million. But if you're looking at the value and the potential of what they're able to do, and we heard from Andy, he is a great skater, an elite skater. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think that they will build into that potential value.
Last year, when the Blues started the season, their three oldest players were Robert Bortuzzo, Marco Scandella, and Torrey Krug. None of them will be on this year's team, and they've been replaced by guys in their early 20s. You had Letty, Shen, Falk. Kevin Hayes was also over 30 on last year's team. So, and you've kept some of those guys around, some of the over 30 guys, but you've made some pretty dramatic changes with the roster. Sundqvist may or may not be ready to start the season. It's hard to come back from an ACL. But there's just a tremendous amount of youth that has been infused into a roster that was probably looking back a little bit too old at the beginning of last year.
And it's not often you get a guy that's going to move up and potentially play on your second line. And then the other guy, and talking about Broberg, could be on your top pairing with Parayko. Right. Not often that happens in the same day with the youth that is coming to St. Louis.
Coming up as we head down the stretch, we've got rock and roll here on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to get in touch with my friends at Hoffman Brothers because there's so many things that you need to get done at your home that you might not think about, like your drain system. Did you know that by neglecting your home drain system over time, there could be accumulated debris, and that causes water to drain slowly or complete blockages? Getting your sewer lines and drains checked regularly by Hoffman Brothers is important, and they are offering sewer and drain in services right now, from sewer repairs and drain cleaning and full service sewer line replacements, sewer lining, and more. You can call to schedule at 314-664-3011 or go to hoffmanbros.com. And don't forget about your water heater, because homes in the St. Louis area face water heater issues like sediment buildup and odd sounds and insufficient water and leaks. You can get that taken care of as well by my friends at Hoffman Brothers. Schedule today at hoffmanbros.com or call 314-664-3011. Improving life in every home. Hoffman Brothers, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
You're talking about how the Rams of 1999 were just a great group, and I have the best team here with Matthew and Brooke and Dan. Dan brings in donuts this morning for my belated birthday, which was yesterday. Brooke brought in a cookie cake and knows exactly how to get to my heart, the jumbo bag of Reese's peanut butter cups. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely delicious.
You're welcome.
So you guys are the best.
And don't forget First Watch taking care of you, too.
First Watch is awesome. Thank you very much.
And the balloons.
Oh, yeah. And again, go to STL Balloons on Facebook or Instagram. And I'll put this up on the old Twitter machine. But you can also just see it right now. It's right behind Brooke on our Airlines team studio cam. That's right. It's on the YouTube channel. So, Matthew, you don't have much rocking and rolling today?
No, we kind of balloon partied this segment. So we kind of got to get in and get out.
Oh, now they show up. That's great.
No, they'll still be here at 10:04.
Oh, okay, good. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, Matthew Rocc. And thanks to, good job, sir.
Pleasure.
Thanks to Andy Strickland for joining us on very short notice, right after it was announced that both Broberg and Holloway are going to be members of the Blues. Andy, within a minute, said, yeah, I'll come on with you. So he was great. Thanks to Torry Holt as well and Stan McNeal. You can hear all of those on our Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's podcasts on the app or at 101ESPN.com. Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes, of course.
Thank you for making it fun. Daniel, you're the best.
Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you very much. We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of this show. For all of us, until tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, it's Tuesday. Have a terrific Taco Tuesday, St. Louis.